Do we care about Minecraft Dungeons coming out on May 26th?
A what? No, it's a
Huh?
Diablo-like. We don't talk about clickers on this podcast.
Yeah. I will probably try it, but I don't care that much. I will only try it because it will be on Game Pass and a new thing. So I'll install it and play it for 20 minutes and go, neat, and then uninstall it.
Do we care about Apex Legends adding permanent duos mode and map rotation?
Yes and no. Again, I don't think we need to talk about it. Okay. I think it's cool.
Should we talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered?
Hell yeah. No, I don't know. Like
that thing seems dumb. Why would you pay $20 for a 4-hour campaign that's not even very good?
I don't know.
And no multiplayer.
Nostalgia, baby.
And when it came out, they did not add akimbo shotguns to Modern Warfare, so I don't know what the fucking point is. Actually, as far
wasn't
as
that
you might be able to do them akimbo already, I don't know.
Wasn't that only like one specific set, like one specific weapon was akimbo shotguns?
It's the sawed off. Yeah, and I think there is a sawed off in Modern Warfare, and it's possible that you can akimbo wield it because they added akimbo with season 2 because while that game's initial marketing at start was gritty realism, after they unleashed the anime guns pack on the community, nothing else was sacred, which is fine with me.
They're fucking this person, someone on a Facebook post that I made was like, where I was talking about beating Resident Evil 3. They're like, well, wasn't the original game short to begin with? I'm like, I mean, not particularly. Really. It was like 6.5 hours for according to how long to beat, like 6.5 hours for the main story. And then someone's like, that's pretty short. Like, well, compared to Resident Evil 2, which came out, before, that has how long to beat has that at 5.5. But the remaster came out at like 9 hours plus to beat on like one playthrough. Whereas Resident Evil 3 is much shorter. And I'm just like,
it's weird that it's $60, to be honest.
If it didn't have the multiplayer, it wouldn't be. I don't think they could charge $60 for it. People would riot.
Yeah, that multiplayer, it looks like the kind of thing that they should have put out RE3 for like $30 or $40, and then the multiplayer separately for $30 or $20 or whatever.
People seem at 0-0.
Oh,
I'm not okay.
Yeah. No, that's a good.
There we go. Now we can start the
we'll
podcast anytime.
Okay,
exactly.
My first clap is very, very quiet, by the way.
It's okay. It's easy enough to find.
All right.
You should. That should be the intro for every podcast now.
I don't want to get sued by Square Enix.
I don't think you have to worry about that. Oh, I didn't even associate that with Final Fantasy. I thought you were doing the 20th Century Fox intro.
Oh, no.
But that would have been dun 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 dun.
Now we're gonna get sued by Fox and Square Enix.
It was less than 15 seconds. We're fine.
I don't think they care.
I won't hold up in court. My lawyer cares.
Let's see.
Dang, we missed starting at 4:20.
Sorry. I'm trying to think how I'm going to start this podcast. A lot of various bullshit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been playing this week.
That's sort of it. Yeah, I played Total War 3 Kingdoms last night.
I didn't play very much, apart from the games I did.
Cat girl without salad, Amuse-Bouche.
God, I just love that title though.
It is a good title.
I I don't want to buy it based off of what you told me, but at the same time, that name, I'm like,
It's good for about 5 minutes.
yeah, that's not good enough for me for like $8.
Yeah.
How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?
Fuck.
Like a year old or 0 years old.
Wow.
Today years old.
Guys.
Hey.
It's April 4th, 2020. That's 4/4/2020.
Yes. Have we started the podcast, or is this more
That, hey, now we have a welcome on April 4th, 2020 to episode 115 of Gaming Fix. I'm your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite date, but calendar date, not like romantic date, but
Okay, okay.
Say, that was very
now.
forward.
Sometimes you got to go forward to go backwards. You know what I'm saying?
What?
Do I know what you're saying?
I get
Joining
it.
me today, Alyx.
I'm your partner's favorite shriveled fruit that they put into the oven.
It's a hot date.
Yep.
Pat.
I have nothing. I'm your partner's favorite Calradian raider.
Naturally.
That must be problematic. Allison.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something funny to say, but it's too early in the morning for me, so it's got nothing.
I'm sorry. Wait, okay, say that one more time.
I've got nothing.
Perfect timing.
Yep. Nailed it. Today we're going to talk about some games, some new games, some old games, maybe. I don't know. I think they're all new.
They're all, well, sort of.
Mostly new.
Most of them.
Kind of. They recently
Sorta.
came out.
In the last 5 years, yeah.
Okay. Well, how about we start with a game that I know someone is very passionate about. They have such strong feelings. Alyx, tell me about Cat Girl Without Salad, Amuse-Bouche.
Sure.
Starting with a showstopper.
Yeah.
How are we gonna?
That's pretty.
I pity whoever has to go on after this one.
That is pretty strong feelings. You're right. I don't even know where to start. It's just such a strong game to be talking about right off the friggin' bat, man.
It's the game that everybody wants to know about this weekend.
I want us to start off with the best game, but the weakest level of energy, so that way the other games get seem that much more important. So we're gonna lift the other games up by making Cat Girl Without Salad seem less than it is.
I don't think I followed that.
Yeah, I don't think I
tell us about the game though.
So I'll start by saying review on the site. But yeah, no, it's a weird game that has a surprising amount of history to it, where it originally kind of showed up as a way forward tweet image as kind of a April Fool's joke, showing this really colorful spacey background with all this junk going on and being like, oh, we have all these weird mechanics, but it was always just a joke back in 2013. And then they randomly just kind of released it with a Humble Bundle in 2016, in June 2016, I think. So it was available on PC for about a month that you could buy. And then after that, you could not get it really, unless you went to piracy. And on April Fool's this year, 7 years later, they released it for money on the Switch, on the Nintendo eShop. So there you go. There's the story of how it came to be. And what it is just this side-scrolling shoot-'em-up kind of, I don't know. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that's very...
Was it worth the wait? 7 years of anticipation?
If we're thinking about it in terms of 7 years of anticipation, I'd say it's better than Duke Nukem Forever. But I wouldn't say it's very good.
Yeah, you're setting the bar.
It's interesting. I think it's worth playing for about 10 minutes, like maybe even the first stage. But after that, it's not very good.
So it's worth playing a third of the game.
Yes, because there are 3 levels in this game, which is kind of impressive in its own way.
Some shoot 'em ups, shmups, if you will, seem to have been getting pretty short lately. Like some I've played have been like, I'm done already. Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I beat it in a single playthrough. Like I didn't lose. I lost one boss fight because I started the boss fight with like 3 hearts out of 10 or something, and it doesn't replenish your health. So while I was learning the boss fight's patterns, I died, and then it just kind of checkpoints you back to the start of the boss fight, and you can spend some of your score to kind of come back, which is a decent mechanic. I think that's pretty cool. But for fun, after I finished it, I tried going like 3/4 of the way through a level and then dying and seeing like have it checkpointed, and it does not. It just throws you back to the start of the level, and like that's annoying if you're like
better than the start of the game.
It's true that is, yeah, you're not wrong. But like if it's a, let's say 10-minute level, if you're at minute 9 and then restart, it kind of sucks because the entire way there's just this dialogue going on from the main character and either the boss of that level or her little partner, and the dialogue is just terrible. And it doesn't change, so like you really just want to mute it when you restart. Like it's really like off-putting how bad the dialogue is. I don't know how to say it any clearer. The dialogue is fucking atrocious.
See, I told you, strong feelings about Cat Girl Without Salad, Amuse-Bouche.
Yeah,
it's like saying the name.
Like it's
name is really, extremely good.
It is, but there's like stupid jokes like, oh, the bounty we're going after is known to start lots of fires, and the girl's like, oh, he's a kleptomaniac. He's like, no, that's pyromaniac. She's like, oh, he steals fires. And it was just very like, it's that kind of humor the entire way through, where it's trying to be random, but it's really failing.
Is there a spork anywhere in this game?
Almost. Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Does that mean there's a spoon?
Actually, no, there is a spork in this game.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Now that I think about it, one of the bosses uses one. But
RAR XD.
Yeah, that's basically the attitude of this game. But it's, I don't know. It's cute and funny.
Even for like points, 7 years ago, that's like too late for that kind of humor.
Yeah. Don't buy it. Maybe watch a YouTube playthrough of it. Like the part of it that's cool is the weapon mechanics where you're picking up weird weapons. So like one of them is the RPG gun. So you pick it up and then you basically get a menu on the left side of the screen that's like attack, magic, heal, run. And you can just kind of select one of those, and you know, it's like almost like a Final Fantasy encounter at that point. Then there's another one that's like sports gun, where you basically get a golf ball and it's oscillating between where it'll shoot, and then it'll go and ricochet between things.
It's like some like Yoshi's Island bubble bobble type.
Yeah. No, there is actually a puzzle gun that's like puzzle bobble, where you're actually shooting those kinds of bubbles, and then like if you match 3, they'll burst and do damage. But like,
okay.
But like, and that's like, it's cool, it's clever. But the thing is, that gun in particular is almost a hindrance, because if you don't hit anything with it, it does no damage. Mm-hmm. So if you're not matching 3, like you're basically doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Does it at least make up for it and like do a lot of damage if you do hit stuff?
It's a pretty decent amount of damage, but I wouldn't say a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it has cool stuff. There's the DDR gun where like you're still shooting bullets, but with every bullet, if you hit you match the dance moves, then like it's doing a lot more damage. Like the weapons are very clever, but the game is just not very good. Anyways,
tragedy. That's strikes the Nintendo Switch.
You can read the review on fix.space for all that passion and more. It is.
Oh yeah, that is live.
Yep.
Great. yeah, you can find a review of that and some other games on fix.space. Well, what about this other tragic game on the Switch that you have played? Business Tragedy.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic. I played a little bit of Good Job.
CEOs failing upwards.
Exactly.
The most tragic story known to mankind.
CEO's children failing upwards, but it's fine. I think I kind of echo Allison's sentiment from the other week of like, it's interesting and neat, but I kind of wish the scoring was different. Like it gives you this playground where you can like set up wires to be your catapult and fling things through walls and stuff. But it will like, you'll get a D or E or F score if you do too much damage. So it's like really encouraging you not to use those mechanics, even though they're like obviously like the ones they want you to interact with.
It's like if
and the ones that are the
Game,
most fun too.
Yeah.
It's like if Goose Game gave you points for not honking at people.
If it took them away.
Yeah,
for honking at people. Yeah. Like it's cool. It's good. And I think it's really charming. And I think it's well made and all of those things. But I don't know. Like I found myself by some of the later levels just being like, like, I don't know how far you got into it, Allison, if you finished it. I got to like the giant cube.
See, I think you got further than me because after last week, I played it a little bit, but I haven't played it very much more.
Yeah.
I'll probably go back into it because it is a neat concept. And I think that once you turn off the little part in your brain that wants to get a good score, you can just kind of go, oh, like it lets you kind of go wild. But
totally. I think I kind of got over that part pretty quickly because the score was so stupid. But like at some point it hit my bullshit quota of kind of turning into busy work when it's asking you, oh, what are these 200 plants? And I'm like, I mean, yes, there's ways to do it quickly, but So I don't know. It's fine. That we don't have to talk about it that much. It's worth playing if you're into kind of those weird, fun, physics-y kind of games.
And maybe if you're getting sick of working from home, you can play some Good Job to get back to that office life.
Exactly.
And just completely destroy your office. Because that is the best part, is when you like set up wires as kind of as a catapult and just destroy literally everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's very stupid. It's profoundly stupid in a good way.
Yeah.
We need some more of that in life. But do we? I don't know. Things are kind of profoundly stupid.
I can find a lot of stupid stuff for you if you want. I look at it and participate in a lot of stupid things. So
let me introduce you to Cat Girl Without Salad, Amuse-Bouche.
Yeah, I was going to say, relevant to Good Job. There's a very good Phil Jameson video from a couple weeks ago that people should go follow Phil Jameson on Twitter. That is the actor and writer and comedian who portrays Ace Watkins, Gamer for President.
Got it.
He does extraordinarily funny, like short videos for Twitter on his Gamer for Prez account. And there's a very funny one about a boss's son at the Skittles Corporation.
Okay.
That sounds great.
I want to hear about the Skittles boss's son. But in the meantime, I want to hear about Mount and Blade 2.
Yeah. Mount and Blade 2 came out. Who here has played Mount and Blade 1?
A very long time ago.
I think I played it for like 15 minutes one time.
So for those who don't know, Mount and Blade is like at its core, it's a sort of a medieval combat simulator. But
is it like Mount Your Friends?
No. That would be a painful version of Mount Your Friends blades. No thanks. No, it's
Xbox 360 exclusive.
It has so Mount and Blade is sort of centered around this directional combat system that is really like sort of easy to learn, tough to master kind of thing. You move your mouse up and click, and then you're doing an overhead strike, and you move to the right and click, and you're doing a right-handed swipe and left and click. It's a left-handed swipe, and down and click. It's a stab, which seems like at its core very simple, but the way all of the math interacts is one, very satisfying and cool, and two, a little more complicated. Like if you're moving backwards, you're doing less damage. If you're moving into someone, you're doing more damage. You can like chamber people, which is a concept in medieval martial arts. Like your shield can take damage and break. Horses are a huge part, hence the mount part, where you can do like couched. I don't even know exactly how to say it. Lance damage, where like you don't have to necessarily attack. If you have a lance, you can just like hold it down and hit people. Anyway, it's complicated but fun, and always has played really well. And there are kind of two facets to the game. There's the multiplayer battles where you just do that, you just fight. But the game also has this huge, sweeping, deep campaign system too, where you can do whatever you want on this medieval facsimile of Europe that is not the real world, but isn't also realistic. It's not a fantasy world either. So there's no magic and no like monsters or anything. And so you could go around the world and kind of do whatever you want. Your character levels up with RPG-like mechanics. The people in your group level up with RPG-like mechanics, whether they're specific characters that are part of your like retinue that are have like light storylines, or just random troops that you pick up. And you could have armies that are huge, like hundreds and hundreds of troops. And have mechanics for having to pay them and feed them, and you're clicking around this big world map to move around it, and then you can siege castles and start a faction, or become a bandit, or become a trader, or whatever. It's kind of like a space simulator, but medieval. So anyway, Mount & Blade 1 was really important because it was one of the earliest like early access titles. They did early access before that was a thing, really. You could buy into their beta way before the game was out through their website, and then it later came out on Steam, and you like paid a reduced price to get into the beta and got to test it and stuff. And so it's kind of surreal that Mount & Blade 2 is out, because it's a game that they've been working on for like 8 years or something like that. The studio Tail Worlds is a Turkish studio, and it's the only thing they make. So they've kind of been, I think they do some like contract work and stuff too, but it's interesting that it's taken so long for them to put Mount & Blade 2 in a place where it's ready for early access release. And it's very good. In short, it is like what is wild to me about it is that it is a highly iterative. It feels like it is the game that would have come out like 3 or 4 years after Mount & Blade Warband, which is the last game in the series, which was like the same engine and the same mechanics, but with some content upgrades and some tweaks to how systems worked, but largely the same game as Mount & Blade, just kind of like almost like a standalone expansion pack that leveled things up a bit. So Mount & Blade 2 feels like it's like, oh yeah, we put that out 3 or 4 years after Warband came out, but instead it's been a lot longer than that, because it's largely visual improvements, which the characters look very, they look like Mount & Blade characters did when the first Mount & Blade came out, which is to say
like 2008.
Yeah, like when Mount & Blade came out in 2008, the characters looked like characters from a game in like 2002, which is kind of like the Mount & Blade 2 characters kind of look like a game from 2016 or earlier. But it's got a charm. They're charming in a weird way that makes it fine. It's not like an eyesore, and the environments look pretty good. There's really cool lighting stuff going on. And when I was playing, I was like riding my horse around one of the environments and was like, they did a really good job with this. So there's certainly the visual update is appreciated, because that's one of the hardest parts about going back to the original Mount & Blade at this point. And then the rest of it is all they totally changed how character progression works in a way that's really cool. That feels a little more current. In the past, I don't even remember exactly how you got new like skills and stuff, but now it's still the same system where you do things to level it up. So when you fight with a one-handed sword, your one-handed sword gets better. But now when you level up, you can put points into those different abilities, or I guess skills. And the points you put into them increases the maximum that they can advance. And then as they advance by you doing them, you unlock nodes along the path that are like passive perks. So once you get to like level 30 and one-handed damage, you may get to pick between dealing more damage with a one-handed sword or getting a hit point increase. And what that means is your character you may decide, well, I don't want to use one-handed swords long term, but by using them, I can get more, my character can become more athletic or whatever. And then so you use it to a certain point, get that skill bonus, and then switch to a different kind of weapon, which is cool because it encourages you to kind of do different stuff. So character progression has been upgraded and stuff, but otherwise, it's largely the same game. They made a lot of tweaks to the combat under the hood that make it feel better and that make it play a lot better. But which I guess is up for debate. I did see a couple of negative Steam reviews of people that were like flipping out that the combat's different, but it feels the same. Like it controls the same. It's not really noticeable that it's much different. It feels even more rhythmic now to me, where which I like, where you'll swing and your opponent will block, and then they'll swing and you'll block, and you'll swing and they'll block, and you're kind of like doing this like rhythmic dance back and forth to try to find an opening. And I find that really appealing. But yeah, I mean, it's largely the same game. You're clicking around a world map still, and the getting into battles is the same thing, and you're still doing the thing you did in old Mountain Blade, which is like my party's speed is 3.4 and this group of looters speed is 3. So I slowly am watching my party catch up to them on the world map as they run away. There's a little bit more story now. There's actually like a story you can start and finish, which the first game didn't really have. But you can also ignore it and just play it to be a big thing. There's going to be a lot more, I guess, faction control stuff in this one from what the first one had. A lot of mods added, like the ability to like start your own faction and level it up. I guess in Mountain Blade 2, as early access continues, they're going to be adding that kind of stuff into the base game. But it's great. If you like Mountain Blade, I would definitely recommend it. And even if you don't like Mountain Blade, I think now is a good time to check it out if you've been curious about it. If you just like medieval, the idea of a medieval fighting game.
Yeah, I see original Mountain Blade as kind of being a progenitor for a lot of games that are really popular now. Like Chivalry comes to mind. And then like even Dead Island to an extent with their combat. Like it is definitely an influential game. I don't know if I want to play it in 2020, but you know, there's a lot more free time these days, so maybe I will.
And I guess what I would say is it's been the updates that they've done to it with Mountain Blade 2 really make it feel like a contemporary for something like a Mordhau.
Sure.
And I wouldn't say that I think it's quite as good as Mordhau's combat, but it's so much more than just the combat, and that's all that Mordhau is. And also, I was quickly turned off to Mordhau because that developer doesn't seem to give a shit about like reining that community in. And unfortunately, medieval combat games tend to have like really rancid communities. And whereas the Mordhau developer is basically like, well, we don't think of ourselves as white supremacists, but if they want to play our game, that's fine. Like I actively saw
You're like,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe don't.
I actively saw people from Tale Worlds in the Steam forums telling people to like the good one was there was somebody complaining about there being women in Mountain Blade, and the way that Mountain Blade has always handled having women in the game is actually, I think, really cool because there are lots of very sexist characters in the space. Like a lot of like kings and stuff, if you play as a woman, will be pretty shitty towards you, but it's not in it's in a look at this guy, he fucking sucks, you should beat the shit out of him way, not in a, you know, this is what you get because you chose to play a woman. It feels very much like the game is on your side and presenting the fact that in like medieval settings, men are awful, which men are awful all the time, but
hell yeah.
But anyway, one of the lead developers was in the Steam thread and just told them to get a life as the last comment on the thread. So I feel a little bit better about the Mount & Blade community. And if I've been just kind of checking in on like their Reddit and stuff, and it's a lot more people were like, hell yeah, dunk on that guy. So it feels like a better community than Mordhau. And I think the overall the game overall has a lot more going for it than something like a Chivalry or a Mordhau, because those games are very much just like do the multiplayer combat part, whereas Mount & Blade is the multiplayer combat part is there if you want that, but it's more about the RPG side, where you have this big, huge world that you're exploring and doing stuff in. So I highly recommend it. They also, the user interface overall is just a lot better. So if that always seemed intimidating to you in Mount & Blade, this is a much more approachable version of that kind of game, I think. So yeah, it's good. They did a cool thing too, where they did like 10% off for early access launch, but then you got like 20% off if you owned Mount & Blade 1. So it was only like, it was like $30 or something to get it. Not even been 20. Yeah, it would have been 25% off then. It was only like $30 to get it if you already had Mount & Blade, I think, versus the normal price tag of 40, which was cool.
That's pretty cool.
That is, after playing Mordhau last year, I am much more interested in playing a game like that. But I don't know if do I want to wait till it's out of early access? Do I want to jump in now? I don't know. There's a lot of games right now too. So. Yeah,
there are a lot of games. So I wouldn't hard sell anybody on buying it right now, but I would say, it launched into early access, but it feels very complete. And I think the stuff that they will add will feel a lot like post-released content for a lot of games, except it's technically part of early access. I think the reason that they put it in early access basically is because they don't want people to buy it and then go, oh, it's missing this feature from Mount & Blade 1, because there are some like kind of obscure features that it still needs. But I think if you're someone who hasn't played a lot of Mount & Blade 1, or if you're someone who has and are just very excited about it, it's still a pretty complete game. I think, I mean, it doesn't feel like it is. I think the biggest thing that it's missing is some kind of just give me the game without the story at all mode. And I don't know if that's something they're even going to add ever. And like I said, you can play it for a half an hour to get past the tutorial bits or opening bits of the story, and then never have to interface with it again if you really don't want to. So,
yeah. Maybe I'll check it out later in the year after they've kind of worked some stuff out. But yeah, okay. And especially we might end up needing some extra games to fill time as the year goes on.
Oh, I thought you were going to say practice with medieval weaponry.
Well, that too. Well, are there katanas in this game? Where I'm living, I'm not going to have so many claymores.
That's true. There's not really katanas, no.
Okay, well, I'm going to need to get back to Neo then.
Yeah, so I was going to suggest.
But you've actually been doing some more weapons training.
Yeah, totally.
Jeez, so that was a really good transition.
I will preface this with the fact that I am generally extraordinarily anti-gun, and I am not someone I would love to see extreme gun control measures taken in this country to go so far as to just like throw them.
They're coming to take away your VR,
melt them down,
taking away your Quest.
So don't think that I'm suddenly some kind of gun nut or something. But I was playing. I was playing Boneworks in VR last week, which I won't talk too much about because I didn't get that far in it. It's cool. I don't know. But I was playing Boneworks, and it's makes me nauseous over time. I can only play it for like an hour or so at a time because it has the free movement thing. So I got out of it and then was like, there's this shooting range early on in Boneworks where you're kind of practicing with the guns. And I was like, shooting guns in VR is actually pretty fun when it's not like Space Pirate Trainer, which is a game that I played a lot when it came out. It was cool for an early VR thing, but like eventually it gets really old, just like standing in one spot and shooting like a laser gun and stuff. But like when there's actual physics involved, it becomes more entertaining. So I started looking for like the least gross shooting range I could find in VR, because I didn't really want to get like Gun Club VR, which is kind of fetishistic in a way that I find a little much. So I came across Hotdogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades, which I had heard about a little bit before. And it is a VR shooting range, but also very like irreverent. Like the part where it has an indoor range you can shoot guns at is very true to life. Like there are Steam reviews from people who are gun enthusiasts who talk about how the shooting in it is true to life, and the only thing it's missing is the kick of like you can't physically feel the recoil in the weapon, but otherwise the ballistics modeling is on point. The way the guns operate is on point. You have to like insert the magazine into the weapon and pull the slide to charge it and stuff, like to chamber around. And so all of the weapons are modeled incredibly accurately. There's even late last year they added a flintlock pistol where you have to like hold the charge up to your mouth to tear off the wrapping, and then you have to put a little bit of powder in the flash pan and then put the rest of the powder in the barrel, and then you have to ram the shot down into the barrel with a ramrod that you pull out of the pistol, and then you have to cock it, and then after you fire it 6 or 7 times, the flint will break and you have to put new flint in. So like it has very, very accurate weapons modeling. However, you never shoot a person in it. All of the modes that have enemies, they're walking sausages called sosigs.
Why not?
Sausage.
And
they say really funny stuff. And
these are sentient beings you're mowing down.
They are. Yeah, they are. That's true. But it's very, and I was looking like at it, like this does not feel gross in the way I was like trying to like figure out how like, this is a game where you can spawn like a P-22 and work all of the mechanical functions of this firearm and shoot it at an indoor range at a target and stuff. And yet it doesn't feel like it was made by like the NRA somehow. And it turns out that the reason for that is because the developer Anton Hand is really, really cool dude. He describes himself as an Antifa lefty on Twitter, and is generally like one of the like most positive, friendly sounding developers that I've like interacted with and watched devlogs from and stuff. And he's just a really cool dude, and he's very much into the like history of the weapons, but is not like post videos of like going on research trips to go to firing ranges and stuff. So he's interested in them in real life too, but he's not a like gross alt-right gun person, which generally makes the whole tone of the thing feel a lot less icky and a lot more like it's a video game. It's really, really good. It's one of the best VR experiences that I've had. It is such a weird mix of sandbox stuff. Like there's several different ranges where you can fire real guns, or like last night he added a potato gun in the most recent update. The week that there's this mode in it that is the most popular that I'm terrible at called Take and Hold, where you have to move around this pretty generic looking, but you have to move around this environment and fight sosigs and take points and hold them, which makes sense. And it's got like a roguelike progression where you're like going to weapon stations in the map and buying different guns to use against them. And you can get like, this game models a lot of weapons. So it has like really terrible like breech loading competition guns, which you would not want to use in a combat situation, that are really bad, that you have to load like one shot at a time in. So it's hard, but you can play this mode with a bunch of different like loadout sets. One of them is called Gordon Free Meat, and it's weapons from Half-Life that you can play with.
I'm looking at it on Steam now because I pulled this game up, and it's Well Done Free Meat, and
that's the name of the update. Yes.
And I was just like, excuse me. Okay, like you kind of understand the
yes
level.
He added a gravity gun with that update that functions like the gravity gun from Half-Life, but like really well. It has this thing called Meat Fortress in it now. That's one of the modes where he got sanctioning from Valve to use all of the weapon models from Team Fortress 2 and adapt them for this game. And so it doesn't have multiplayer, but you can spawn as any of the classes from Team TF2 and fight against SOSIGs that are also other classes from TF2 in like a deathmatch mode.
Can I like rocket jump or grenade jump?
I'm not sure if that's in there. It might be.
That sounds terrible.
I haven't
like from a VR motion sickness.
Yeah, I don't know if I could handle that.
That's what's so wild about this game though, is it's $20. It has every locomotion option available. So you can use teleport, you can use free movement, you can use the arm swinging thing that some people like. It has everything, and it has different versions of each of these things. It has multiple sandbox ranges where you can just go and screw around with the different weapons. And then it has this take and hold mode, which is kind of like a full game in and of itself. It also has this Meat Fortress thing. It has this zombie open world survival game built into it as well. That's one of the modes. There is a Coliseum mode that's like arena fights that you use the melee weapons in the game because there's also melee weapons. It has the thing that I like the most, which is it has this thing just called meats. That's like M.E.A.T.S.
How to spell meats?
Yeah,
I've been to an Arby's.
Well, it's like with periods in it. It's like it's an acronym. I don't know what it's an acronym for, but and it's just a shooting range with different challenges. So you stand in one spot and then get different. Like sometimes the targets are moving. Sometimes the targets are. You have to shoot them multiple times. And I like that mode a lot because I just kind of want to drop in and shoot some guns. And then there's like there was a Christmas mode that they added. There's
Merry Meatsmas.
Yep. There's just like a wealth of, this game has like hundreds and hundreds of hours of content in it.
The customization on the weapons is very silly
because of the nature of the thing. So a gun with a rail on it, you can spawn any rail-based attachment and put it on it. It's kind of like
including
real life,
little American flags.
Yeah. Which is
put them all over your gun.
Yes. And it's just like, I'm just totally blown away by the audacity of this thing. And the fact, it's largely one guy who does it. This Anton Hand is like the main guy. There are other people that contribute to the project for like modeling and audio and stuff like that. But Anton is like the primary developer and does 90% of the work from what I understand. And he puts out an update like, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's weekly, but seems most of the time like it's weekly. And he does weekly developer logs, and the whole thing is like $20. It's just like, I'm very blown away by it. It is definitely like the most impressive thing I have seen. I haven't played Alyx yet, but it's the most impressive thing I've played in VR so far.
It's
just because of the breadth.
It's been in early access since April 2016, almost 4 years, almost to the day that we're recording this, April 5th, 2016. On the Steam page, and approximately how long will this game be in early access? This isn't set in stone, but we are currently looking at leaving early access sometime in 2018.
Oh boy.
I am not surprised that that's what it says. But I would say,
they keep updating.
Glad that wasn't set in stone because they missed that mark.
And also. And I think that Steam reviews. Oh yeah, it has grenade bowling too. I forgot. That's one of the other modes you can do.
Like skee ball.
Yeah. It's like you throw the grenades up a thing, and it's like a mix between that Steven Spielberg game and
Boom Blocks
and skee ball. But yeah, and like if you look at the reviews, they're on Steam anyway, over 6,000 reviews and 96% of them are positive. It's a pretty well received thing. Oh yeah, it has a whole thing called Worst World. I wish Sam was here. There's a whole mode called Worst World, which is like an open world exploration of this Old West town that uses all turn of the century weapons. And there's like bounty hunts you can do and like shooting challenges and all kinds of stuff there too. And what's cool about all those disparate modes is, for the most part, all of them then have characters in this take and hold mode that is sort of the core like gameplay of the game, where, you know, you can play as like the spy in take and hold, or you can play as the Worst World character, and all the guns that they have access to will be the turn of the century weapons. So yeah, it's really cool. I've been spending, I think I probably played it for like, well, I guess I can check, right? Because I have it on Steam. I got it last weekend on like Sunday, and Steam says, yeah, Steam's off. It says I've only played it for 4 hours, but I'm positive
more like 40 hours work from home. Am I right?
It might be that I've been launching it through the Oculus app, and I don't know that it's launching.
Well, if you owned it on Steam, it should launch the Steam stuff.
Yeah,
so
it should, but it may not be tracking it if it's Oculus may be loading the Steam VR, but not counting as like opening it through Steam. So maybe I feel like I've played it for probably 6 or 7 hours at least, because I was playing it for an hour or two a day. But yes, it's very good. Highly recommend it if you have a VR headset. The only thing that is a pain is, and he has talked at length about why this is the way it is, and I get it, even though it sucks, is so to interact with to eject a magazine from a handgun in this game, you have to push down on the whatever hand you're holding the gun in. You have to push down on the joystick if you have an Oculus Touch controller, and then click the stick in to actually eject it. And the reason is because the way that coding inputs for these basically, I went down a rabbit hole with his explanations for why you can't just flick the stick down to do it. And joysticks on VR controllers are awful. And there's a reason that Valve used a touchpad for their, and always includes a touchpad for their controllers, because the way that coding touch events works on a touchpad is way better than joysticks. And it is functionally impossible for him to code it so that you can just flick the stick on an Oculus controller. So if you have Oculus Touch controllers, I find that it's fine. It doesn't bother me, but just know that things like to click the hammer on a single action revolver, you have to push down on the D-pad or on the joystick and click the stick in, which could feel better for sure. On like a Vive controller, you're using the touchpad to do it, which is a much more natural interaction.
In Half-Life Alyx, you just hit a button and then the magazine pops out.
Well, you hit a button, but it's a button on the controller, right? Yeah. So in this game, the B button, because of the way it works, the gun can be in either hand, which means that the functions for movement, which is what the face buttons do on the touch controllers, have to be on either hand, because you could, and it's relevant because like if you have a lever action repeating carbine, you might want to hold it in your left hand by the barrel while you do something, and then do something else with your right hand. And it means that you could do things like you could have a shotgun, like a full length shotgun, and then let go of it with your right hand and pull a pistol off of your belt, and then shoot a few rounds at someone, and then throw it away and grab the shotgun again. Because of the way he's trying to model your hands, it's that each hand can do the same functions. So that means the B and A buttons are dedicated to things already. So he had to move all of the gun specific interactions to movement on the joystick or touchpad, which works fine on the Vive, which was the thing the game was originally designed for. But it means that it can be a bit of a pain, but you get used to it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you really hate clicking sticks in, then it maybe isn't the game for you. But and if you have Oculus controllers, but I think it's pretty easy to adapt to.
All right. Well, That's horseshoes, hand grenades,
Hotdogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades.
Hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades.
You see it referred to as H3VR a lot. That's what he usually calls it. Even if you don't have
H3, Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Even if you don't have a VR headset or enjoy the game, I highly recommend looking up Anton Hand on YouTube. That's the channel he uploads all of his devlogs to. He's just a delight to listen to talk about that stuff. And there's a lot of interesting theory stuff, and talks about how coding the different weapons works and everything, and gives like demonstrations of stuff. It's cool. He's a cool guy.
All right. Well, moving on to our next batch of games. Allison brought a lot of various bullshit. Tell me about a lot of various bullshit.
Yeah. So
what are we playing this on?
I played a wide variety of stuff this week. Yeah, I do. Since it's just been a lot of staying at home, there's just been a wide variety of games I've been playing. First, I don't know why I'm doing this first, but last night I tried Stadia for the first time.
Yeah, they sent out an email to a bunch of YouTube Premium subscribers.
Yep.
Unless you're not in America, because I'm a YouTube
US
Premium subscriber, not in America.
Yeah, US subscribers only.
Yeah. So basically, if you're a US YouTube Premium subscriber, you get 3 months free of Stadia Premium.
It's the only tier right now, so
yeah,
doesn't matter.
So it's not. You could have access to Stadia and not have Stadia Pro, which is Stadia Pro is the thing that comes with some games as part of.
Well, I guess if your subscription lapsed.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Is you got 3 months last year.
Yeah,
but we're now past the point where you would still have a free subscription if you bought one. So
yes. So the only way to have Stadia though is to have had that pro subscription or gotten a buddy pass, I guess. Yeah.
But the buddy pass gives you a pro subscription for a period.
Yeah, but there is no free tier at the moment. Like someone cannot sign up today and have the free tier.
Yes.
Yeah. So I decided, why not? It's free. So I signed up for it immediately.
Realized you have no games.
Well, they do give you a couple of free games. So I tried it out. The first game I played was called Stacks on Stacks on Stacks, which literally just came out. And it's a game where you...
What?
Stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks.
Yeah, it's Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. It's on Stadia.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's also on Steam.
It's very amazed by this.
It's not Steam. There's not a lot of games in there. If you said that you found that game on Steam, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds dumb. But like Stadia is
yeah, and no, and it's one of the free games that they give to you through Pro. So I just saw that and I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And I played it. I did not think it was very good. It's a game that I would really like to because it's basically it's where you're building, where you have to build towers. Why am I blanking on the name of that other game that did that? Where like you have blocks and you have to build it up to a certain height.
Tetris.
No, but I was like, what's the one that's
Boom
like
blocks?
Okay.
Bejeweled.
Jenga.
I'll figure out that Tricky Towers. There we go.
That is what I was trying to think of that name too.
Oh. Yeah, that was like in my head. So it's pretty similar, except it's in a kind of 3D space. But there's a lot of weird occasional mini games in there, and I couldn't tell if it was just Stadia being silly with me, but there was one where it put you into like kind of like a defend the tower mode, and you had to shoot a bunch of ghosts trying to attack your tower, and it was not working out for me. like the controls were not working. The best part of the game is that at the end, once you finish building your tower, you can knock it down, which is good. But I don't know, like it felt like they were going too hard on the physics of it, because it was just kind of not fun to build up, because it was just like too accurate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's not kind of locking you into a grid and making it more.
Yeah. And it's very like with some of those games like Tricky Towers, like you can do some stuff that it probably wouldn't be necessarily feasible in the real world, but you don't really care because it's a game and games are meant to be fun. Whereas here, if you're just a little bit off, like everything will go tumbling. But anyways, I don't know if I necessarily recommend it, but if you have Stadia Pro, it's free on
what
there.
What else are you going to play?
Yeah. I also tried Grid for all of 5 minutes, but any amount of latency does not make that game very fun to play, it turns out.
Racing games, not good if you have a lot of latency. Yeah.
So I'm trying to play this game, and it was not going very well, because there is not a terrible amount of latency. Like the other game I played was this game called Guilt, which is the only, I think, Stadia exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of like an adventure game, so it was definitely fine to play. But Grid was not good on it.
Yeah.
So YouTube in the US and Europe is cutting like bandwidth kind of stuff. Like, oh, we're going to default to like standard definition on videos to like help save bandwidth and get like better stuff to people and be faster or whatever. I wonder if Stadia is running into, well, there's probably not that many people using it, so maybe it doesn't matter, but
I mean,
I wonder if there's any like considerations into latency and bandwidth usage with regards to Stadia.
I wonder, especially, I mean, not a lot of people are playing it, but then they did give out 3 months of it to people. So I don't know. I was playing it like within a couple of hours of email. I
don't know why you would, like, if you're someone stuck at home, you are at your parents' house, and don't have like all your consoles with you.
Yeah, my PlayStation 4 is at home, and I'm missing it. But
also, you're not going to buy your PlayStation 4 games on your.
Absolutely not.
So like, I don't know who is like signing up and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use Stadia while I'm stuck at home.
Guilt was decent. Like it was not bad, and it ran pretty well on Stadia, and it had a really nice kind of atmosphere. So it was a cool game. But it's just, there's really not a lot that I'm going like. There was nothing where I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense that I would buy it on Stadia versus any other console. And I mean, yeah, there might be people like me who are they're staying with their parents, so they don't have all of their consoles with them. But I mean, I know that I brought my Switch, and a lot of people are, getting Switch games, like playing Switch in this in this time, to the point where Switches are apparently just like completely sold out everywhere. But I mean, also there's like, I could play, if I wanted to, I could play games on my phone.
Yeah.
I could play indie games on my my laptop's okay. So it's like, I have a ton of games in Steam, and I could probably figure out, like, even if you had like a pretty basic laptop, you can still figure out stuff that you could play on Steam, which
or
there's just so many
now and stuff like that.
And Apple Arcade has a better lineup than what's on Stadia. Not that there aren't good games on Stadia, but a lot of them are old games. Like,
and there's like $5 versus this would be Stadia is Pro is $10 a month, and then you still have to buy a bunch of games. It's I feel like the lineup of people who have reliable high-speed internet and want to play video games like on Stadia that they have on Stadia, but also don't have a powerful enough PC or console to play stuff, like that is just such a small number of people that I decided to play it almost because I was like, Google's still supporting Stadia. Like out of like right for now, but I was like, that's interesting that they haven't completely given up on it.
Let me list the games I could play right now. I pulled it open because I still have Stadia Pro until April 30th from the free trial that Super GG's Alyx Arona passed my way. I have Farming Simulator 19.
Steam esports scene on that is wild.
Yeah,
Steam World Quest is pretty good, but like
to be fair, I like Farming Simulator games too. That's actually the one game on here that I'll probably check out because then I don't have to buy it anywhere else and I can play it for an afternoon. And now that we don't have data caps temporarily, I can actually use it. So Farming Simulator 2019, Steam World Quest, good game. Steam World Dig 2, phenomenal game. Both games that I own on Steam and that you could run on almost any device.
Yeah,
I don't
those
think
are
they're
not
on mobile, but
resource heavy games. I have them on Switch, but like I think I played the first Steam World on PC, and it was like,
Stacks on Stacks on Stacks, which I just claimed. Spitlings, which I just claimed. The Serious Sam collection. Guilt. Grid 1. There is a third Grid game out now, just to be clear.
Like the original Grid?
As far as I know, this is
not
the
the
original
2019 or 2020 like reboot.
Is it the new one?
Be the reboot.
Okay,
I don't know.
That would be better. That would be better.
I haven't played any of the Grid games, so I honestly have no idea. And it just felt so bad to play.
The most recent one is just Grid again.
Yes.
So.
You're right. Because Grid, yes, I think it is the newest one, but also that game's not good from what I've heard. So either way,
it did not feel good to play on Stadia.
Destiny 2, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Samurai Showdown, or Thumper. Those are my options. And
Thumper
three of those.
That's like a bad game with any kind of latency.
So does Samurai Showdown.
Yeah.
I was definitely thinking of playing some Thumper last night, and I was like, I respect myself too much to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll while you're going through other games, I'll load up Thumper here and see how it looks.
Yeah,
and do some live reporting. For
the one thing I'll
us.
say is that the idea of there was something really appealing about basically signing up for this Stadia Pro and then clicking into a game and it's immediately available and there's no downloading. It's totally, it was like, I mean, if it worked well, I would probably be like, okay, I can get that, because just being able to click open the game in my browser and just go immediately into the game without any sort of download and things.
I think
that's appealing.
I think the thing we were saying even before it was released is that the tech seems amazing, but we have to see if the platform is any good. And as it's turned out, the platform is pretty terrible. And it doesn't seem like it's gotten any better. Like I'm looking at it now. It currently has 50 games on its service, and it's been out for 4 months. And all of them you basically have to pay for, except for the occasional one they give away.
Yeah, and it's and from what I've heard, developers are basically like, they are not incentivizing us to put games on Stadia, especially like indie devs. And it's like, if you had I mean, a lot of indie games don't necessarily require like high specs, but if you made a subscription like $10 a month, you can play this on anything, and here's a bunch of good indie games that you could play, that might be appealing. But like, that's not what they're aiming for, and I just don't know what they're aiming for.
Yep.
So
I don't know.
I don't know anybody knows what they're aiming for.
The technology is really cool. It's just such a bad platform.
They're also not the only ones with that tech. They probably have their own like solutions and workarounds and whatnot, but like PlayStation Now refreshed their like 7-day trial. So if you have used your 7-day trial in the past, I don't know exactly when they did it. So maybe if you've used it recently, you can't, but I used one, I don't know, like just a few years ago, and they recently, I think it's when they dropped their prices, like late last year, early this year. I don't remember when that was. What is time? But they refreshed that so you can get a free 7-day trial of PlayStation Now, and you can have that same experience on a PC or your PlayStation, whichever. They've got Trails of Cold Steel 2 and 3 on there.
Yeah, I refreshed that too, and played a couple of games on it a few weeks back, and I it's just such a better like bang for your
offering
buck
of games.
Yeah, it's just it's like I just don't know why you would choose Stadia over PlayStation Now. If the only thing is if you really want to play some of the newer games, like you want to play Doom Eternal, but you don't have any of the hardware to do it.
Doesn't sound like playing Doom Eternal on Stadia is any way to play Doom Eternal.
No.
So,
okay, I will say I just played a couple levels of Thumper and it works fine.
Okay,
it was totally playable.
Good to know.
At like 6 a.m. What are we, 7?
Yeah, for sure. It was I got S ranks on the first few levels and it was okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So maybe
a tiny bit of lag, but
maybe I was playing it at whatever Stadia's peak hours are, but I don't know.
I mean, you also got I have a PC wired into my router that
I was just playing it off of Wi-Fi. So
yeah, I'm sure it will be a terrible. That's the thing about this stuff is like playing it on Wi-Fi is going to be so hit or miss because it just depends so much on the quality of your network hardware and the device you're playing it on, and like it's network hardware. So like I think the only way to play a game like Samurai Showdown or Grid or Thumper is probably going to be on a wired connection.
God, I can't even imagine playing something like Samurai Showdown on.
Yeah.
No, thank you. But yeah, so that was my experience with Stadia. Do not recommend, but it'd be nice if it was good.
Thumper though, kick-ass game. I might see if I might install it on Steam.
Oh yeah,
locally.
No, I've been wanting to play
VR.
I know. Yeah, I love that game.
Yeah,
I've never played it in VR. I've just played it the standard version. So I should play it in VR.
So otherwise, I've played like a really weird, wide variety of games. Like I'm currently playing through Final Fantasy X on my Switch. I got to the Blitzball segment and I was like, I don't know if I want to play this right now. So I haven't played it since I got there. But I'll probably have to
put it down and you go play a real game like Final Fantasy VIII.
I need to push through that. Also booted up Breath of the Wild again, because why not? And then also I've been trying to pick up a couple of indie games on the Switch because right now there's a pretty decent sale going on. So I just decided let's just pick up some of the really cheap games and try it out. So the first one I played is called Dogurai, like samurai dog. And it's an action platformer that's kind of like I've seen people compare it to basically like Ninja Gaiden and Mega Man, but it's stylized like it's a Game Boy game. So the first level you have the kind of greens of the old Game Boy, and it's pretty good. It feels pretty good to play. The one thing that was just my biggest issue was that it was genuinely pretty tough to play. Some of the platforming got to be genuinely really challenging. Like I was last night I was trying to get through this one part and I just decided I needed to play something else for a bit because it was you're jumping onto various platforms. All of the platforms have are like moving platforms, but then there's also stuff that's like coming down to crush you at every moment. So you're just like trying to jump through this, and it was genuinely pretty tricky. But the normal mode, you have infinite lives, so you can. It's tough, but it's not necessarily like, super punishing, unless you play in the harder mode, I believe. But it's currently $2.50 on Switch.
That's
and
not
it was
bad.
Yeah, no, it's a fun little diversion.
I was gonna say the first thing it reminded me of is Gato Roboto in how it's going for that style, but like that's a much more appealing price.
Yeah, so I think normally it's $5, but here it's $2.50. I might go back and replay it, but I mean it's definitely not bad for the price. Cool. And I've also been playing Crossniq Plus, which is a kind of puzzle game where you have a grid and you have to make crosses on the grid by moving things around, kind of like a Rubik's Cube where you move the columns and you can move the rows, but you can't move things individually, but you have to make something that's completely horizontal and you make something that's vertical, but things get a little bit more tricky because they start adding spaces that you can't move, and they start adding just kind of it basically is just mostly an endless mode. So there's no real progression, at least as far as I've seen. There's a few different modes. Like there's a kind of chill mode where there's no time limit, and then there's I think a versus mode and a time attack mode that I haven't really checked out at all. But as a puzzle game, it's really one of those games where, like when you're playing when you've played Tetris for quite a bit of time and you kind of just get into that zone and you're just feel it, like, just it's hard to describe, but where you kind of it gets kind of almost zen, like where you're
the Tetris effect.
Yeah. Where you're just like moving stuff around and you stop thinking about it. And so I was like listening to some podcasts last night and playing it, and it was genuinely pretty fun. And right now it's on Switch for $1. So definitely something I'd recommend. Also, the aesthetic is extremely early 2000s. I think that the developer calls it like a Y2K aesthetic. And it's charming in that regard. But it's normally, I think, $8, but for $1, I would totally recommend it because I feel like that's a steal, and it's a good game to kind of zone out with, or if you want to do something with your hands while you're listening to a podcast, it's a good one. So I was pleasantly surprised by that one. So I'm going to try to keep picking up some cheap indie games on Switch that are hopefully good ones and not the shovelware ones that they put down to like 10 cents. So I'll let you know next week if I find any other good indies on Switch.
All right. Tune in next week for another installment of Allison's Budget Gamer Corner.
That's right. So Dogurai and Crossniq Plus, 2 good games on Switch for very, very cheap. Right. And then also I played Animal Crossing. So
how are you feeling about the eggs?
I don't dislike the eggs. If you're not playing Animal Crossing, right now they're doing the Bunny Day event, which is basically Easter. And in place of a lot of the resources you can collect, there are eggs that you can get. So like if you're chopping down some wood, if you're like chopping at a tree, sometimes there'll be an egg. Or if you're fishing, sometimes there'll be an egg. Sometimes if you dig stuff up.
Most times there will be an egg now, it seems.
With fishing, yeah.
If I was starting out this game now, I'd probably be pissed.
Yeah, a lot of people are pissed off by it. I'm not that bothered by it because I am genuinely trying to craft all of the furniture, because if you do that, apparently you'll get something. So I'm like, I got to do it. And I don't really dig the aesthetic of a lot of the items of Bunny Day because they're just mostly eggs. But
I like eggs.
And yet my island, my house is now covered with all the egg items because I'm like, well, I'm not going to craft them and not use them. So my Animal Crossing house looks just god awful right now, but I think it's fine. But some of the memes that are coming out from this are very, very funny. But yeah, I'm still playing it every day for a little bit of time. I think I'm playing it a little bit less per day now, just because I've kind of started to get into the swing of things, and there's less of a, okay, can you, there's less stuff that they're building now since the museum's up, the tailor shop is up, building houses is a lot easier. So it's just kind of, it's gotten to the day-to-day aspect of it, which is definitely fine. But yeah, I'm excited to keep playing it because I'm still enjoying it.
All right. I saw that someone's money tree turned into eggs.
That's horrible.
Holy shit! I would uninstall the game.
I would be so mad.
I would just uninstall it and never launch it again.
Hey, that's a cool 30,000 bells replaced with 3 eggs. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think also the other issue is that they set up this event without necessarily considering that everybody is stuck at home and playing a ton of Animal Crossing.
Sure.
Because it's like they put it over the course of, I think, 12 days, which, you know, if in normal times you're like, sure, that gives you time to only play like a little bit each day, or just play a few days of a week and get that in. But now everybody's just like, I just want to play Animal Crossing right now. And this is a lot. So
it'd be nice if you could opt out.
Yeah. In the past, these events have been like just one day, haven't they? Like day of. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But right now, since there's since they've added the DIY recipes and crafting, instead of buying a lot of the items or a lot of that, it's your crafting items, which
All right, well, that's been Animal Crossing, unless anyone has any other thoughts about it.
Not really. I've kind of lost a lot of drive to play it, but it's good. Like, it's still I'm still likely to go back to it, and more likely to go back to it than I have been with previous Animal Crossing games. So
I think the only thing that'll keep me coming back is just playing with my girlfriend.
It's fair,
but yeah, I can see why people like it, but it's also, as I suspected, not for me.
One of my friends did point out, and I thought this was interesting, they're playing it with their partner also, and really enjoying it. They were talking about how, like, it's one of their favorite. They bought a Switch for Pokemon and then were super disappointed to see like their response to Pokemon, and didn't end up even playing it. Because he's very like not into spending lots of like full price on games. And he and his
only play Nintendo games.
No, it's a lot more. This is the first Nintendo console he's had, I think, maybe since he was a kid. Like, it's very, he's very much somebody I love playing games with, but he's very much a like, I'm going to buy this co-op shooter from 5 years ago on Steam for $4 because it's on sale. Will someone please play it with me, kind of thing. So he and his partner are playing Animal Crossing together and really enjoying it. But he was pointing out to me, like, it is interesting that things like the fact that you have to button through like a shitload of dialogue every time you donate things to the museum, or the fact that like you can't sort your inventory with a push of a button or whatever. If that was in like an action RPG on PC or something, it would get hammered for quality of life stuff. And it is interesting that for a game, Nintendo stuff does kind of get weird passes for a lot of little like stuff like that, quality of life related stuff.
Let me craft more than one item at a time, damn it.
Oh my gosh, that is the worst, especially when you're trying to craft like bait and you have a bunch of clams and you just want to craft like 10 bait and you're just like sitting there. And at one point I was sitting with my Switch and I was just pressing the A button and listening to something or watching something because I was like,
is it true what I've heard that like there's almost no touchscreen functionality, or like it's not what you want it to be?
It's just the keyboard basically.
Like isn't it like if you want to do the drawings for your whatever your banner, like you can't use the touchscreen and stuff like that?
No, I think you can use the touchscreen for that.
I think you can,
thought
I don't
remembered
know.
I think,
reading.
I think I
we
watched my
mentioned
girlfriend
that,
do
but-
it, and she left a weird face on my island.
But that's good. But yeah, I don't know. It's I just think it's interesting. I'm not trying to be negative or like dunk on the game
No,
or
no.
anything.
This is
It's-
just another example of people giving Nintendo like a pass on weird
Yeah.
arcane.
Yeah,
Like
and-
their online stuff is just like, what are
And
you
nobody
doing?
thought about it, that the fact that it would be nice to be able to craft more than one of a thing at a time during the development of this game. Like making games is hard. I'm not trying to pick on the developers, but like, come on.
What if they did think about it and they went, no, that's not the experience.
Yeah, like
You
what the fuck?
You need
Why
to
is that
craft
in there? Why
each
can't you make
item
10 clams,
one
10
by
pieces
one.
of bait at once?
Yeah, it's personally, I've definitely noticed some quality of life things that I wish were different, but I don't think it's really impacted my experience that much.
Sure.
There's just a lot of stuff where you're just like, would be nice if Nintendo did that, but it's
I think
It's
it's just
Nintendo,
interesting.
they
It's like a
never will.
larger sentiment thing where when Nintendo doesn't do it, that's what I feel like most people, and I think it has more to do with the audience that engages in those games. I think if that same audience were to play a survival game that on Steam that didn't have batch crafting, they would probably be more forgiving of it than the people who tend to play those kinds of games on Steam. So I think that's really where the
Yeah.
difference lies, but it is interesting still.
Perhaps. But I don't know. Maybe the world will never know
Oh,
the answer to this question. Who knows?
Know.
Well, they've been putting out a lot of patches. Maybe they'll patch in something like batch crafting. Who knows?
Maybe. That would
Uh,
honestly make me play the game more, I think.
Yeah, I honestly, I would be willing to give it some more time, but between these turnip prices and that's it. No more Animal Crossing. Done.
Really?
all
We're not
right.
talking about it anymore ever? Yes.
Well, I'm assuming it'll come up a few more times, at least once more this year, at least.
Okay.
Whether or not
Yep.
whether or not it should.
I mean, I put it on my temporary
I can tell
best
you-
games of 2020 list.
I can't tell you
Oh.
whether or not it should, whether
It's
or not
gonna
it
be
will.
another
I
Pokemon
can also
thing
tell
where
you, but
It's Sam's
Well,
game of the year, and
yeah, we put
have
two-
to let it on the thing.
We
no,
put
that,
two,
we know what that's gonna be.
we put two bad games on last year's game of the year list. So
Um,
we're not gonna go down this rabbit hole.
okay, I'm doing the calculus there. Yeah, okay, it's my turn. I got games.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear? I'll talk a little bit more about Half-Life Alyx real quick. I talked about it last week. I'm sad. First thing, I am
Same.
sad I was not further in the game when we talked about it last week, because we had Jeff Davis on last week, a friend of Pat, now friend of the podcast, and I got the current mission or chapter I'm on, simply titled Jeff in Half-Life Alyx. And like the way they do it is they just like put the text up in like a certain spot in like the opening room of the level, and so it's very easy to miss. So I'm just kind of like looking around this room, and I turn, and as it fades out, I just see Jeff in white text like at the top of my eye line. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Did you know Half-Life 2 is like all in like Russia?
yeah,
I forgot about that until I was playing this game. And this whole level takes place in a distillery. And Russell, the guy I got your voice in the ear, is talking about how vodka is terrible, but he loves it. And because Alyx doesn't know what vodka is. So he's like, please bring me back some vodka. Make sure to bring me some vodka, as his like, super dramatic, and like the voice is cutting out because of interference or whatever. But this is where like the survival horror aspect of the game kind of really kicks off. There have been like dark rooms and like head crabs and stuff, but for the most part, none of that was too spooky. I did get to a part where I touched a coat rack while I was in a dark room with like gross head crabs, like the poison ones with like the 2 legs and they're hairy. Those were all like just spawning infinitely and like crawling all over the walls and all around. and I brushed the coat rack, and my girlfriend has like a fuzzy like hood, like a faux fur hood on her jacket, and I felt that, and I just immediately like shook and was like, I got to get out of this headset.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was an unpleasant experience. But got past that and met Jeff, who is a blind, like Zen parasite covered, like combine, I think. I don't know. It's a big monster that chases you around and has like spores that come off of him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to cover your mouth with by holding up a controller to your face, and that like makes it so you don't cough, so Jeff can't hear you. Meanwhile, you're like picking up like vodka bottles and throwing them into another room to distract Jeff, so you can like get into another room, and then he's stumbling into wherever you're at. There have been some pretty tense moments in there that I was like trying to figure out. I'm like, okay, can I go over there? Hard to figure out with like where I can actually walk, and like trying not to run into a wall in like my semi-small apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I've got like a decent sized place to walk around and stuff, but I'm always worried I'm going to like punch the wall, because I've already done that a few times. And it's like a dark, creepy room. And I'm like, hey, can I stand over there? Will I be safe? And what can I do? And so I think like the smaller areas, the more compact zones are not my favorite aspect of the game so far. Like there's an elevator that has a bunch of like crates in it. So the space is like the space I could like operate in the game in was much smaller than the space I could actually stand and walk around into my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So it got very disorienting. Like, okay, how far can I lean over before the game's like, nope, you can't be in here because this is like not a valid space for your body to be. And then like pair that with loud noises from the elevator, like an alarm going off. And then I've got Jeff pounding at the door trying to get in. I'm like, okay, how much time do I have? Like, can I actually, like, is this just like until I figure out the right thing to do? Or is it until like he hits on the door so much? So that was pretty stressful. And then they did a really annoying, like kind of jump scare type thing where I opened up a cooler and like a dead head crab fell out on my face. I was like, nah, because they're real gross looking. I've had a couple moments where I could just like see right down their like creepy little mouths, and
you can see their beaks.
You can see everything. And it's not great. So yeah, Half-Life Alyx continues to be good. I want to play more of it. Keep up it.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'm
having a good time.
I currently don't have a PC which could handle VR. Hope to build one at some point, and also don't have a VR headset except for the Oculus original dev kit, which was like,
the dev kit. I don't know if it'll run on that.
No, I really doubt it. It was like 240p. Like, so you would not want to.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the ideal experience for that at all.
There's like a newspaper early on in the game where it's kind of hard for me to read on the Oculus Rift, but like if you had an Index or like another high resolution headset, you could probably like, you can actually read what's going on in that paper and like hold it up to your face, be like, oh, there's some crazy stories about like a world in an apocalypse from right as like things were going bad, like one of the last newspapers probably.
Oh, we'll be seeing some of those soon.
Yeah. Well, I probably close to seeing one of the last newspapers anyway, regardless of our current social, political situation. But yeah, so that's Half-Life Alyx.
Speaking of
but
butts.
This week, you can't see this butt because the ethics department said they had to turn Jill Valentine's skirt into a skort from
so stupid.
We're not going to discuss that. The classic costume for Resident Evil 3 is fine. Does not matter. Anyway, Yeah, I played Resident Evil 3. If you recall, I am a big fan of Resident Evil 2, the remake that came out last year.
Yeah,
my
same.
game of the year.
I thought it was great.
Pretty high up on our game of the year list, like 4 maybe, which I was surprised it even got that high. But I'm not going to complain. Might have been higher, 3 somewhere. I don't know. It was in the upper half.
Yeah.
I remember a 1 and 2, and everything after that was doesn't matter.
I can look it up. Give me 10 seconds.
Okay. Well, yeah, Resident Evil 3 was I think the most
number 3.
Number 3. Oh, yeah. Okay. It deserved that place, in my opinion. Resident Evil 3, probably not going to be that high on our Game of the Year list unless something very bad happens with the rest of video games for the rest of the year. And maybe it will. That remains to be seen. We'll get to some of that in news, maybe. So, Resident Evil 3... I think the most important thing to note about Resident Evil 3 Remake is it was made by a different team than either Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 2 Remake. It was made by an outside team.
Like still Capcom though?
Outsourced. Let me see who. I don't remember if they ever actually identified the developer.
Yeah, like a lot of it, but it looks like the exact same engine as 2, and like maybe even a lot of shared assets from 2.
Oh yes, like yes, very much so. It does not. I do not see like a specific developer just as Capcom. But so maybe I'm a little bit wrong on that. But it's not the Resident Evil 7 or the Resident Evil 2 team. So that I think is the most important thing that I can say about this game, because it is, well, it shares a lot of like mechanics and DNA, and like it is very much part of like the Resident Evil 2 canon, or the Resident Evil canon as they have kind of created with this remake. It's less ambitious, I think, is how I describe it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, the thing that happened with the Resident Evil 2 remake that I think we talked about, like, almost as soon as it came out, was the addition of Mr. X was basically Nemesis. So, like, if they ever did Resident Evil 3, how would they handle Nemesis when Mr. X already kind of fills that role? And from what I've been hearing, I haven't played Resident Evil 3 yet, it sounds like Nemesis is kind of delegated to scripted moments, cutscenes.
Yes.
Like very, like, you're interacting with Nemesis now. He's not following you around like Mr. X. So,
yeah. So I think, I can't remember if I don't think I talked about the demo on this podcast. When I was on Super GG last week, I talked about how Nemesis felt very dynamic in that demo.
Right.
Because he was jumping, like, you'll go into a building as he's chasing you. He's like, okay, he's not going to follow you into this building because it's like a story place or whatever. But then you come out and then he's jumping off the roof and like sliding down metal poles with like claws and there's sparks flying off. And he can like jump past you. Like, he's much more nimble and he's faster than Mr. X.
Yeah.
So there's like a different dynamic in avoiding him and how you interact with him. But he's only in the game for like a few set piece moments.
That's really weird.
That is weird.
And like that's somewhat similar to how he worked in Resident Evil 3, but there were like more of those moments, and there were
really, because like in original Resident Evil 3, there would be moments where you would just hear stars, and he would just randomly show up, like, and those were totally random.
A little bit, but there's also like a lot of scripted moments where he shows up, and then you also you have choices on what you can do. But yes, this game does not have the space to allow those dynamic encounters with Nemesis.
What's weird to me is this seemed like the opportunity for, and like this is the reason that even though I had kind of a so time with RE2 Remake last year, I want to try it again on PC because I think if I had more precise aiming, that would help me feel a little bit better about my issues with it. But I was excited about eventually playing RE3 because to me, I thought of it like, wouldn't it be cool if this was like not open world, but like kind of like open in the sense of like the way a Hitman level is open, like a large space that you're moving around with Nemesis always hunting you, like always being there. That was the concept that I thought they were going to be going for.
That sure would be a cool game, Pat.
Yeah, exactly.
Shame that's not what they made.
It's surprising to me that that's not what they made because it seems like that's right there. And it seems like for Resident Evil, it's worth spending the time and resources on making that be the thing because that's obviously the thing you want.
I said it while you'd stepped away, but I think the most important thing I can say about Resident Evil 3 is that it was made by not the same teams as Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 7. So it was like a smaller team.
Which I guess it seems like that just shouldn't happen, you know? Like it seems like if that smaller team isn't going to make the thing that the game should be, then they shouldn't be the ones to make it, you know?
I don't know if it needed to come out now. Like, what if they'd spent another year on it?
They could have just done Resident Evil Resistance and it would have been fine. I fully expect Resident Evil 8 to come out next year.
With next gen?
Assuming, I think that would be the way they do it. Maybe like a cross-gen thing, but I think like a PS5 or like both console launch.
So
would
a
make
sex
sense.
game is what you're saying.
Hell yeah. It'll cost $69. Actually, that's what Microsoft should do. Is they should make all Series X games cost $69.
That'd be pretty good.
Also, there was something that must have been like a joke because there was something that was just like 69. It's like nice, very deliberate. For like someone's age.
I could see the Game Pass account doing that.
But yeah, so you know how in Resident Evil 2 the levels are like totally interconnected and basically until you go down to the lab at the end you can go back to basically anywhere you've been in the game.
Yeah, in the police station it's all one giant level essentially. Basically, what if you just played through sections like the lab over and over strung together and you can't go back between them? Like that kind of size and like not the exact same layout, obviously, like a little more like interconnected and the ability to like unlocking shortcuts and stuff more so than the lab, but like about that size or smaller. That doesn't sound great.
It's like it's fine. I had a good time with it. I think like it captures the spirit well enough.
It
like
looks
the campiness.
Yeah, it looks really good. I watched Abby from Giant Bomb stream some of it, and I watched her stream enough of it to go, you know, when this is on sale for like half off or less, I'll probably play it because it looks fun. It looks well made from the moving and shooting look like they do in RE2, and that is good.
It's more dynamic. You've got a dodge where you can like execute a perfect dodge and then go into a bullet time. It's a little harder to nail than I would like. You can get an item after you beat the game. You can get an item that like makes that easier to execute. Because sometimes I try to dodge and it's just like, nope, you're getting punched out of that dodge or getting grabbed out of the dodge. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And there's like a 3 dodge like version and stuff like that. So there's like, it's much more mechanically dense. And like complex than Resident Evil 2. And they're throwing way more zombies at you. This is a much more action oriented game.
Which makes sense.
I think it's not Resident Evil 6 or even Resident Evil 5. But it is like there's a lot more zombies on screen at once than there are in Resident Evil 2.
Do you find yourself avoiding them or do you actually engage with them?
sometimes you can't avoid them just because there's too many. And like if I was better at the dodging, maybe I would have avoided more. But and I'm looking forward to like seeing speedrunning take off and taking a shot at that myself a little bit, because I'm sure there'll be some interesting stuff. But in some ways, I think it'll be inherently less interesting than like Resident Evil 2, just because there are so many discrete zones. So I think the thing that really like solidified like, oh, this is not exactly what I was hoping for, is there's a moment, or in like the kind of first like actual main area where you're solving puzzles, there are 2 like locked rooms, and I was like, oh, I'll come back to those because I'll be back here, because it's like Resident Evil 2 remake, so it's going to be like a bigger city and stuff like that. And I did come back to that area for about 5 seconds as I ran through, and everything was on fire. And I was like, oh, I guess I don't get to go back to these places and get the stuff in those buildings. Okay, whoopsie. So then from then on, I was like, okay, I'll have to be more careful and try and make sure I'm picking up everything along the way. I still miss some stuff. That's fine. It's not like an issue, because I'm going to replay it to try and like speedrun and stuff like that. But it was disappointing to realize like, oh, this is not going to be the big open Raccoon City nemesis stalking around every corner, jumping off buildings and trying to mess me up at any moment game that I was expecting. And I built that like expectation up for myself. There was no like marketing that I think said that, but that was what I was expecting, because that's the game they should have made, in my opinion.
I'm looking at a Steam review too that suggests that like a significant amount of content was cut from it as well, compared to the original game.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that isn't in this version.
Like Clock Tower, Gravedigger, the park, City Hall, Graveyard, other locations, a lot of enemies. There's a whole sequence where Jill is with the RPD that doesn't happen in this game.
Yeah, like you go to the RPD, but it's not as Jill.
It seems weird. I don't know. It just seems weird. It seems like they didn't know what they were doing.
I think they were given a small budget and a small time frame. I think that's what it was. I think Capcom said, all right, we've got all this goodwill.
I guess less the team, more Capcom didn't know what they were doing with the remake.
I would say this is, that I can think of, this is kind of Capcom's weakest release in quite some time, at least since Monster Hunter came out, Monster Hunter World.
It's frustrating because it implies that like, I wanted to believe that they learned a lot from Street Fighter 5 and what a kind of disaster that was. I mean, it's not the worst game, but also compared to what Street Fighter 4 was, it just didn't. I mean, it wasn't great. I kind of hope that maybe they had learned from that, and that's why we got such great releases from them for a while. But it almost feels now like maybe those things were accidents, and it's like they have very talented talent, but from a like publishing and resource allocation perspective, they have no clue what they're doing still.
It's hard to say. It's not like they've got Resident Evil Resistance. I haven't touched that yet. Maybe I'll come back next week saying this is amazing. This is like game of the year. Probably not.
It looks pretty bad in my opinion, but I'll be interested to hear.
I've seen people who are very into Resident Evil saying it's very good. But I haven't played it myself. Sure. I didn't mess with the beta or anything like that. It was the least interesting thing of that announcement. Like they announced it before they announced Resident Evil 3. And I was like, oh man, multiplayer camp? Are you serious?
I love asymmetric games, but also if I wanted to play a 1v4 horror game, I would just play Dead by Daylight because that game is phenomenal.
Well, maybe I'll be, I wouldn't be surprised if they like split these off at some point or something. I don't know. It's weird because like if Resident Evil 3, the remake, was a $60 game by itself, I would actually be mad.
Yeah.
Knowing there's this multiplayer element, I'm like, okay, I can give it a pass on that. But
as long as the multiplayer element is decent.
yeah. I hope it's decent. I'm going to play it this week and hopefully write a review of that. I've got a review of Resident Evil 3 that is going to go up maybe tomorrow or Monday, something like that. Sometime in the next day or two. And then maybe next weekend I'll get a Resident Evil Resistance review so people can see what I think of that.
Yeah,
and my full playthrough of Resident Evil 3 is up on YouTube on the Gaming Fix YouTube channel.
Some of this stuff looks good about Resident Evil Resistance. I just Googled it and there's some positive sentiment. So maybe it's really cool. I hope so.
Yeah. When I first saw the reveal, I was like, what?
If it turns out that Resistance is really good, I could see getting this game a little sooner rather than waiting.
I imagine it won't be full price for a very long time.
Again, like I'm the first one to be skeptical of Steam reviews, but it's getting a pretty good reception there.
Yeah.
I mean, users seem to be fine with the package, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There were some reviews talking about the Skort, which makes me want to just pack up Steam and eject the entire community into the sun.
And there's going to be like mods that put her in like a bikini or whatever. So who even cares about a Skort? Like, it'll be modded into be like the true classic, like, yo, she's on a skirt. Like, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoyed my time with it. I wish it was longer. I wish there was more of it. And so, yeah.
Does they have like the thing that RE2 that makes me want to go back and actually get through RE2 to like enjoy it, or to experience it more, is like a lot of that goofy unlockable stuff, like the tofu character and stuff sounds really funny.
Nothing like that in this, but I'm trying to remember if that was like that stuff was originally in Resident Evil 2 or if it was in Resident Evil 3, but maybe there was in both. There's like some unlockable items and stuff, but I feel like there's nothing like that I unlocked in Resident Evil 3.
The idea, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting at more, is the idea of like Resident Evil 2 almost as like a roguelite sort of thing where you're doing runs at it sounds cool to me. Mm-hmm. So that concept is neat. And if there's like some variability in like loadouts and characters that you can get for Resident Evil 3, that sounds kind of cool, but I don't know. Maybe that's not.
So you can unlock like a bunch of items and like weapons, and like you can unlock defense boosters and attack boosters, mm-hmm. and extra like hip pouches for extra inventory space and early lockpick and early bolt cutters and stuff like that. So you can pick that all up at the beginning of the game or however much you want, but you have to like meet specific challenges to get points and then buy that with points, like kill 200 enemies, kill 1,000 enemies.
That kind of stuff sounds like the most appealing thing about the game and would give it longevity and replayability, as given that the core mechanics of playing it are good.
Yeah. I wish it was longer. I wish there was more.
Sure. Oh yeah, for sure.
I would. Yeah.
It just sounds like it should be a different game.
Yeah. It's not the game I hoped for, which is like my main complaint, and that it's even what is there. If they had made what is there just like more of how they built it, that would also be fine.
I think the meta frustration is like, they're not going to do another one of these. It's not like now in 2 or 3 years, there'll be another shot for you to get an open world Raccoon City with Nemesis following you around. This was the shot for that.
Yeah.
And it's never probably ever going to happen again. If it does happen again, it'll be in 20 years. So like that, I think, is the part that is the most frustrating.
Resident Evil 3 remake.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to do that in a long time when they need the cash, but it's just, you wish they would have nailed it. That's all.
Oh yeah, well that's every game. You wish they would have nailed it.
Yeah.
But there was something going around. I can't remember if it's this team or the Resident Evil 2 team is doing like a bigger project, but it's not Code Veronica and it's not Resident Evil 4.
I wonder if they would ever revisit those. What was it? Outbreak, the multiplayer one.
Yeah.
That is, some people have been wanting Outbreak and Outbreak 2 like remade. There's been like an online resurgence of that game.
Outbreak 2 was interesting.
I've heard they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can find people playing that, like people are doing like weird, I don't know if it's a ROM like lands or like emulating the game on PS2 and like doing that over computer or what, but there is like a community playing that game.
That's so weird.
Yeah. You can find it on YouTube. It looks kind of rough.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, it's like a PS2 game.
That's kind of the two main things about Resident Evil that have made me, as someone who was like the only one I played when it came close to when it came out, was Resident Evil 4. Mm-hmm. It like, the weird mythology is one aspect of why I have always kind of wanted to penetrate it. But the other thing is like how weird the spin-off games seems to be in terms of the like stories they covered, and then the weird experiments they had with things like online play or like the light gun game that they made. That stuff always seemed fascinating from like it's weird it got to be such a wide arching media franchise kind of thing.
It's, to me, it's one of the most iconic series, even though like as a kid I didn't play the games. I didn't like, the first one I really played myself was 4, but I just have such reverence for the series for some reason. I just think it's really great. The lore, the characters, the campiness, I think it's really great. I don't know how it got such a solid place in my heart, but like the movies, I love those. Everything about Resident Evil I kind of love. I haven't played a lot of the spin-off games like Revelations and stuff, but I probably should. Yeah,
I don't know. The Resident Evil 2 remake is on sale for $20 until the 15th, so I may
That's a good price.
pick it. Let me give it a shot again on PC, and even though I've tried
mod Mr. X into like Thomas the Tank or something,
or into a thong.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think I do the same to Leon.
Hell yeah.
Also, I just remembered this game, so the writing in this game is a little suspect for some reason. There's a lot of swearing, much more than like previous Resident Evil games.
Someone said I want to say, I don't know if it's, I think it's Brad, maybe it's Jill, says like fuck shit early on, and when I was watching Abby stream it, and I was like, all right.
It's like in Resident Evil 2 they added some more like fucks and shits and dams. That makes sense. You're in the middle of a viral zombie outbreak. I can understand why you might swear. But in Resident Evil 3, most of the swearing comes across as being written by like a teenager who learned how to swear, or just mustered up the courage to swear, but doesn't know how to properly utilize it. Most of the there's like documents and things have much more swearing. Like there's one for the UBCS, the Umbrella Bio something, the soldiers, and it starts off, "Listen up, limp dicks." It's like, okay, they're military folks. They're gonna swear creatively, but it just seems out of place in Resident Evil. Jill has occasional one-liners that are pretty good where she swears, like "bitch can't even swim" is a good one that she says. But then she says like "shitbird." Like, okay, I guess that doesn't seem like something Jill would say. The master of unlocking.
Speaking of swear, I think it's funny that we're at a point where characters are like, and it's should be fine to swear. I mean, in most ways, as long as you're not saying a bunch of like, as long as you're not saying like truly offensive words that are slur-like or slurs. But it's funny to contrast RE3, which is like character saying fuck shit right at the beginning too. I don't want to talk about it at length, but I finished playing Half-Life 2 this week, and characters say shit in that, but there's a moment near the end where Barney tosses you, I think it's the gravity gun or something, and he's like, if you see Dr. Breen, tell him fuck you, but the fuck is like, there's an explosion that muffles it, and in the subtitles it's like it blanks it out. So this mature rated video game from the early 2000s, they were afraid to say fuck in it. And they had to bleep it out like it's a PG-13 movie, and now we've progressed to fuck shit in the first 5 minutes of a game.
And the stuff you can see in Resident Evil 2, at least Resident Evil 2 is much more graphic with like some of the gore
it is
in it,
shockingly
like
gory,
early on is like some pretty
it's kind of awesome
stuff,
but
in
it
the
is
first like 10 minutes.
I will say the first half hour, even when there's people getting like cut in half by doors and stuff, I was like holy shit,
or it's just torn in half. And then like people's faces have been spiralized by you get some background lore on that guy. But so there's nothing like graphically, there's like some gross like throat stuff, but nothing
I'm all about
gore.
It's a good statement.
No real gore.
That's one of the things that makes me want to play RE3 is I heard that there's some pretty good body horror and stuff in it.
It's unpleasant.
Yeah, I'm into that. I don't particularly love like the kind of, it doesn't bother me, but I don't particularly love like zombie gore. It's not like I'm in, but I do like the kind of body horror stuff, like the head exploding guys in Resident Evil 4 and that kind of like scary appendages popping out of people, the Thing kind of stuff. That's my favorite kind of horror. So
no knees bend the wrong way. So you're saying
that's and you know what? In video game form, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Bones in video game, because I know that they're just like rigged models. It doesn't freak me out the same way. It's for some reason, even though I know it's not real in movies when people's bones bend the wrong way, the fact that it's a human being, like, ugh. Even I watched John Wick this week. Even in John Wick, there's moments where I'm just like, ugh, don't do that to that person. Just shoot them.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that in John Wick 3.
Yes, there is, and I love that movie. But
just shoot him. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, John Wick skin for Resident Evil. Let's need that anyway. So that's gonna wrap up our game talk for this week. That was a whole bunch of stuff. Let's do a quick rundown for people real quick. We talked about Cat Girl Without Salad, Amuse-Bouche. Anything to say that name again? A little bit of Good Job, Mountain Blade 2, Hotdogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. A lot of various bullshit. Dogurai and Crossniq, Stacks on Stacks on Stacks, Animal Crossing, Half-Life Alyx, Resident Evil 3. Whew, it's a lot of games.
A lot of games.
And turns out, might be some of the last games we get after Final Fantasy VII comes out next week, or this week, whenever, on the 10th. It's already out for some people, but also Sony has delayed The Last of Us Part 2 and Iron Man VR until further notice.
What will we do without Iron Man VR?
Oh no. I forgot about it existing.
I seriously did too. I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, the statement that Naughty Dog put out was a little weirdly phrased, but I think
it made it seem like they were like, we really wish Sony would just put this thing out.
Yeah, they're like, well, this is pretty much done. I guess we get more time to work on bugs now. But
if it almost felt like they didn't consult with Sony PR before they put the statement out, and were just like, yo, fuck this.
It was strange. But
so the implication is, or I guess I don't know if it's an implication, because of COVID-19, the supply channels, it seems like manufacturing like discs and stuff is kind of a concern still, and like production and shipment and all that kind of stuff is in flux. And instead of putting it out via digital only or anything like that, they've decided to hold off until things have calmed down and we're not in the middle of a viral outbreak to talk about their game about a parasitic outbreak.
Yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but like,
I don't mean that that's the reason. It's just funny that's kind of the situation we're in.
Yeah, but like, I can see it being somewhat of a responsible choice if you consider how many people do like midnight campouts for video games and stuff. Like,
yeah,
stores have been avoiding like those situations.
They have, but
right. But also, if the supply chain is such that they're having difficulties manufacturing discs, I feel like a lot of retailers would not be jazzed if they said, "Oh, we're doing digital only."
And there'd be plenty of people who wouldn't be happy either.
Right. It's like it might, if they didn't delay it, it could potentially harm some of their relationships with retailers. And it's like,
does that
cowards. As long as internet in the States is bad, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and beyond that, unfortunately, it matters because they rely on those retailers to sell physical machines, which they're going to be asking them to do presumably in the next year or two. I mean, I don't know how this is all going to affect that, but it sucks because I think that, to me, the answer is as simple as you can. Obviously, there are places where it's hard to get physical copies. I think if you're Sony, there's a way you can do this where you make it work. Like, if it were me, I would suggest things like only like you're working with places like retailers that do ship product. So encourage them to don't sell it in stores, or I mean, in a lot of cases, those retailers are closed. Obviously, there's smaller retailers where that sucks. So I don't know if that solves that problem. But I don't know that how much my local small video game store is relying on Last of Us 2 sales versus sales of the huge range of retro games that they sell and like all the hardware that they sell and stuff. But like maybe you discount it by $5 or $10 for a digital version. That way you ease the number of people who want the physical copies and put a little bit of like, make it a little easier for people to get them. Yes, that's going to piss off retailers too, but like, just seems like there's some way around this to make it, to get the game in people's hands.
I wonder if there's some concerns about sales because so many people are out of work.
Yes. And I think that's the real reason why this is happening, is that they're worried that economically it doesn't make sense to put it out right now. And I think that's kind of bullshit. Like, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I can also see an argument
look at the unemployment numbers and what's going on.
Yeah, it's. I feel like it might be a bit of a wash though, because I mean, unemployment numbers are certainly terrible, but at the same time, so many people are staying inside and choosing to play video games that, you know, people who might like go, oh, I don't really have time to play Last of Us 2 at launch, might go, well, I certainly have time now. But,
and I could say personally, like based on the amount of money that I was spending on things like, you know, having beers at the game store when I go play games once or twice a week, and eating out for lunch, which I mean, I don't know that most people do here, but I have a bad habit of doing that. Like even after donating to mutual aid groups in the area, I still have like a lot of money left over that I don't normally have. Like even after saving it, just in the event that I need some extra to fall on, like a cushion, and donating to mutual aid groups to help people who are being more affected by it, I still find myself with like, well, I guess it doesn't really, I could spend extra money on this game because I'm saving so much, and I'm in the fortunate position where I have a job that I can do entirely from home. So I don't know. It's a weird.
It's a weird. Yeah. It's a weird calculus of like people, of like what's going to be good for the retailers. Do you want to piss them off? Will people a lot of people are unemployed, but also a lot of people aren't necessarily spending money going out to restaurants or bars, or I know that I spend way too much money on going to the movies and concessions at the movies. So I'm like, oh, okay. Entertainment wise, buying a couple of extra games is not going to hurt me. But at the same time, not everybody's in that. It's like it's weird. I can imagine being a company and just being like, not knowing what to do with that.
Yeah, but I guess my concern with the way that this, and personally, people who listen to the show know I don't like The Last of Us. I'm not interested. I'm not going to play Last of Us 2, and I think Last of Us is perhaps the most overrated video game of all time. Personally, it's my personal take. But I think like this isn't going to just. It's not like they're going to delay it 3 months and all of this is going to be fine. Like this is going to have global repercussions for years potentially. So delaying it to me is not the solution. Like companies are going to have to find creative solutions for how to release stuff. Otherwise games aren't going to come out at all. And it's one thing for a game like I fully expect Cyberpunk will be delayed into 2021 because that game was still being game was being like those people. CD Projekt was working themselves to the bone to get it out by September. And now that they're all transitioning to work from home, I'm sure that's affecting productivity on the game. Even if they're up at 100% productivity, there had to have been a few weeks there where things were still falling into place to move that operation to home. So
I guess crunching was worth it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if it gets delayed, they're still going to be crunching that entire time.
Just crunching.
Yeah.
Which sucks. I'm very excited about that game, but it also sucks.
They have said that there won't be a delay on Cyberpunk, even though they have transitioned to working from home as of like.
Okay. I don't know if I believe that. Maybe it'll be a shorter delay maybe it'll just be a few weeks or something. But either way, like they can't. There are still going to be countries in lockdown and cities in lockdown in September. Yeah. So these games have to start coming out because otherwise there's just not new games. And like, they got to figure out ways to deliver them. And in my head, if we lived in a perfect world, the people who don't have access to high-speed internet would be able to get physical copies of the games. And the people who do have access to high-speed internet would just get digital versions and everyone would play nice with the copies that are available and make sure the people who need the physical copies get them. Obviously that's not the world we live in. So I don't know. I was going to say that's
mighty optimistic of you.
No, I don't think that would happen. That should happen. But there's got to be some way to try to help that situation.
Yeah. And I know that personally I'm using this as I can play a bunch of games in backlog or buy stuff on sale. But at the same time, I know not a lot of people are just like, I'd want a new game. So I get it.
It's interesting that only news about Last of Us 2 being delayed has come out because a month later, Ghost of Tsushima is scheduled to come out. I believe it's just a month later in June. Is that what it is? Is it July or June? I think it's June. That's not that far off.
What if actually The Last of Us 2 just sucks and they have to remake the game?
that would be.
Oh dang! We can't release it now because of coronavirus. Yeah.
We have been told
shucks.
The whole basis for our campaign is a horrible trope.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still hoping it's not that. But
It's too bad that we have another we can keep working on this game until future notice. Like
we can't finish the story until the next season of The Walking Dead comes out. We need to see what happens there.
Shucks. Yeah.
This season just ended, so now they can take that to oh my god. Okay.
All right.
That was a much more lively discussion than I expected.
Hey, you bring up The Last of Us, and I get emotional.
Packet's fired up.
Yeah,
it's very passionate about that series.
So there was the BAFTA Awards happened, and I will say they made a very good pick for their game of the 2019, which was Outer Wilds. But they did like a bracket challenge of like all of the BAFTA winners for the last 10 years, which includes such games as Mass Effect 2, Dishonored, and Portal 2, and God of War. And in their little bracket thing, The Last of Us was the one that won. And like the implication being it is the best of the BAFTA winners for the decade. And I just wanted to like throw my monitor out the window.
I'm starting to come around to maybe Mass Effect 2 is overrated.
I agree with you. However, it is better than Last of Us.
I feel like every episode I want Pat to have a rant about something because it's very entertaining. This and then the time travel rant was like
Dishonored and Portal 2 are both like
those are great games. Yeah.
Universes beyond The Last of Us in terms of storytelling and innovation. God damn it. Never mind.
Is this when I admit that I only played a couple hours of The Last of Us and I was like, I'm good.
It's fine.
It's a good first couple hours of The Last of Us are emotionally draining.
It's a very well made video game. The people at Naughty Dog are extraordinarily talented at impeccable control, getting really great performances and actors, and also that game sucks.
Wow.
I disagree with all of that, but let's carry on.
I mean, some people like bad games like
Control,
Breath of the Wild, and some people like fine games like The Last of Us. Anyway, speaking of games, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's remastered campaign is out now.
Yeah, it's not a great campaign, in my opinion.
It is the most iconic of the Call of Duty campaigns, though, probably.
It is, but
is it?
Because of No Russian,
because of
I guess
the fighting in a burger place. Like, yeah, it has set
that part's
moments,
cool,
but like that campaign has no pacing and its story makes no sense.
The landmark moment for Call of Duty. I kind of feel like we're,
but
Modern Warfare was big. I think Call of Duty 2 was where it really caught on because of No Russian and the controversy around that generating a lot of buzz.
Do you know that? You don't know, because I didn't realize until Jeff Gerstmann was talking about No Russian on the Bombcast, which was very good. I recommend listening to it if you're not a regular Bombcast listener. I did not realize that level was called No Russian because you're not supposed to speak Russian.
Yeah,
I thought the idea was that you're not supposed to shoot Russian people.
No.
Wow.
It's the line he says as you're getting out of the elevator. He's like,
I know, and I always thought that line meant don't shoot any Russian people, because at the time it was not clear to me what part of the world you were in that airport.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't really pay much attention because it was a Call of Duty story.
Neither did I, and that's why I was like,
didn't realize
they must be at a European airport and they don't want to shoot any Russian people because they're Russians.
What if that was actually it, and if you shot a Russian person, you got a game over? They're just random Russian folks.
I thought it was pretty clear from the context, but that's all right.
I think most people probably thought it was pretty clear. I'm not arguing that it was actually that confusing. Just I played that story, that campaign once, and that was my interpretation at the time, and then I never thought about it again until this week.
Fair enough. But also, who wants to pay $20 for that campaign and no multiplayer?
People who want a ghost mask, and is it ghost, a soap mask, and Call of Modern Warfare?
It's a ghost mask. I'll be honest, I kind of want that ghost mask. I don't think I wanted enough to pay $20 for it, but
yeah,
I did buy a pack of guns that make it look like there's a blue glow stick coming out of people when I shoot them, and I paid like $10 for that. So, because you can get guns that have tracers that are different colors.
Mm-hmm. Tracers.
Then
they have little British accents.
Then you can shoot.
Cheers, love.
They can shoot people in the butt cheek, and it looks like they're pooping out a red flare, and it's funny.
Just like Tracer. Cavalry's here.
That's leaked Tracer Super Ultimate for Overwatch 2.
All right. Anyway, yeah.
Speaking of sequels to games, Valve details major changes for Artifact's new beta.
Yeah.
You were the one person here I thought would care.
You're the only person who would care, Pat. Do you have any?
I do
thoughts?
care. I do care. But they fired Richard Garfield. So
did they fire him or did he leave? Yeah.
My understanding is that they terminated his contract. But perhaps, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I got the impression that there was the way in which he departed from Valve was not like super dramatic or full of venom, but very much there will be no further collaboration between them. And I feel like without him involved, it's like, whatever. I mean, I don't know.
He was laid off is what happened.
What Okay, so what killed Artifact? Was it purely the economy?
It was the economy, but also that the game was too complex. The game was too complicated. Complex is the wrong word to use.
Sure.
Complexity versus complicated they're two different things, and it was too complicated. I think it was very rewarding if you took the time to learn how it worked, but it was, I mean, it's a very good comparison is the way that Legends of Runeterra has launched versus the way that Artifact launched. Legends of Runeterra is a much simpler game than Artifact, but it's also far more playable and easier and like approachable and stuff. Artifact was just like there was so much there and it didn't all add to the depth, I guess, is the problem. So they need to rework it at a deeper level than just fixing the economy, I think, for it to really take off. I am the kind of person that it worked for. I liked the way that it had a lot of breadth and had and the fact that it was complicated and stuff was appealing to me. But I recognize that the number of people that's true for is probably pretty slim, because like most people don't want a game that is more complicated than Magic the Gathering. I
see they put Godzilla and Magic.
I know those are very good cards. Let's put it this way: when I needed to make room to move Total War 3 Kingdoms to my SSD so that the battles didn't take 2 minutes to load, I didn't delete Magic the Gathering Arena. I just moved it to my other hard drive. Anyway, I think like I want games that are complicated. I like card games that are super complex, but I understand that that's not necessarily the goal of everyone. And some people just, it was too much because there was a lot going on, and deck building in that game was very complicated.
So what do you make of the changes there? They've got stated for this new beta. You can play cards on any of the lanes at any time. Like they're zooming out.
That's helpful for
you
sure.
can say all three at once.
There's no paid cards. Everything is available. There's a hero draft. I'm not exactly sure how this.
So no paid cards is a huge thing that they that they really should have done sooner. And I think that's a big thing. I'm also parsing the changes again. The all three lanes at once thing is going to is something that increases the complexity of the game without actually making it that much more complicated. And I think it's also a good differentiator from that game versus other card games. So I think that's great. But it like what they're talking about with it's less likely that a player will get shut out in the same way that they used to. That's huge because there were just times in the original game when it was like, well, there's no way I can compete in this lane, so it's a waste of time to spend anything there. And then you are like basically like losing a part of your turn. So that's good. And then I think that making everything free is important. They should have done that earlier for the game as it is now. And what I would love to see is for them to implement a battle pass similar to what they've done for Dota Underlords that includes cosmetics for things. It's a card game, so you can do cosmetic animated cards. And that's like fucking awesome. And if that is like their main revenue generator, like I will totally buy battle passes for that game if it comes with stuff like animated cards and new couriers and stuff. Sorry.
Do half a map or half a like your half of the lane.
Totally. Yeah. They do that in
like
Runeterra. They do that in Hearthstone. They do that in Eternal. So there's so many cosmetic things that they can do. The other thing I would love to see is if they had some kind of tournament mode that you would buy into small fee, like a couple bucks, but where you could buy into a tournament and get in a group of other players and have it be like, this is a double elimination tournament that is going to take place between you and 15 other people. And it's happening this Saturday at 1 p.m. and you're signing up for to be online for 5 hours or whatever, like kind of like a card game tournament, a physical card game tournament, that kind of stuff. If they can get that in there, would be so cool to have. So I don't know. I have some faith in their ability to do the work because of how good Underlords is. And the fact that they, I think, hopefully learned a lot, because Underlords is in itself effectively a card game in a lot of ways. It's just the cards are characters instead of actual cards. But at the same time, like I said at the top, Richard Garfield not being involved is concerning in terms of their ability to like generate new content. And to be fair, he doesn't work on every Magic set either. He kind of comes in sometimes, and I don't even know the last he worked on. He may not have worked on one for a long time. So it's possible that people at Valve have the chops to do it. I just don't have any evidence to suggest that they have that, other than Underlords being pretty good. So
all right. Next up in the news that is relevant to Pat, Nier is getting a remaster, and its title is quite a mouthful. This is from the Polygon story. Nier Replicant Ver 1.224744874139.
Yeah, people should play Nier, that's for sure. The first Nier is really good. It's not as good as Automata, but it is wild. The story in some ways is almost, it's weirder because Automata goes off the rails in a big way, which is cool. But the original Nier, when you replay the story, you're actually replaying the same events, just with slightly more context. So it has this unfolding quality where you're like, that was cool. Oh God. And it's like, you realize slowly that everything is awful and the world is a nightmare and everything is terrible.
And that's just a fishing mini game.
So I think it's totally something that people should play. My only concern is that I did play it and I put like a lot of it. It's a meaty thing to replay it and get all the endings, which I did. And if this game is like, it's Nier, and then also there's a new 6th ending, and I have to replay it another 6 times.
The producer has said they don't know if there will be another ending.
That's what I mean, is I would bet that they won't tell you either until people have the game.
Yeah.
And I'm the sort of person that I just don't have it doesn't have the same impact for me to just watch a video of it. So I'm going to have a real crisis if there's more story stuff in it, because I'll want to replay it all. But also, that game is not the best action RPG. It's got a phenomenally interesting story and characters and some cool systems, but it's not like playing it is the best part. So yeah, I don't know if I want to replay it again.
The remake is being done by Toy Logic, which I had to look up what they've worked on. They did the original port of Dragon Quest IX. They worked on The Evil Within. They did Kid Icarus Uprising and Super Smash Bros. Brawl and stuff like that. So like they have some stuff under their belt.
Yeah.
And if they're improving the combat, sure, that's good. But man,
what about the fishing? Justin McElroy needs to know about the fishing.
It's true. But like, what if they added a new ending and it was a flashback and you just played the entirety of Drakengard 3?
You don't know how close I came to trying to play all of the Drakengard games and getting all of the endings in those games and playing Nier multiple times before.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's a bad scene. You should
stop
play
it.
Nier.
Get some help.
I can't. There is no help for me.
Vote for Bernie Sanders so Pat can get some help. Medicare for all.
It's my favorite thing to have like weird ass convoluted bullshit. So like, and it's good convoluted bullshit. Like I'm not going to ever spoil it for people, but like the thing you find out at the end of Nier the first time you play it, and then when you go back to replay it, is like, I like am glad that I played that game in a dark basement with no one around, because it was soul crushing. Like I had to like lay down on the couch and just stop for a while.
I think I watched a YouTube video that broke down the story. Now I don't remember any of it.
Oh, it's so good.
Was it by Valkyrie Aurora?
I have no idea.
Because
her
channel is amazing.
That was really good. I watched her.
I don't remember if it was a girl or a guy.
If you played Nier Automata and liked it and haven't played the first Nier, you should definitely play it. One interesting note is this is a Nier Replicant remake, which is another reason why I feel like maybe I should play it again. Is the version that we got when it came out was Nier Gestalt. It cast the main character Nier as as a dad, and you were trying to save your daughter. And the original Japanese release, it was your younger sister, because big brother, younger sister dynamics are more culturally relevant in Japan.
Xbox 360 Japanese release was this Replicant one, or Gestalt. Gestalt, yeah. So
yeah, but there's no concrete changes to the story between the two games. It's just it's just the voice actor is different, and the role that they fill. It's not really, and it's not a spoiler to say that it doesn't really matter if it's your little sister or best friend or daughter, or I mean, as the only thing is that there's no romantic relationship obviously between the characters because she's a child, but that it's someone that the main character cares a lot about. That's really the only thing that is relevant.
And the other thing that came with this news was Nier Reincarnation. I don't know if y'all saw that.
I don't want to play that.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I feel like I have to play that, but I don't want to play that.
You know it's going to matter.
Oh, it's
going to be this Kingdom Hearts Unchained. Yeah.
I will say
Union Cross of Nier.
If we're leading up to in the drought of Nier news that happened, if the lead up is actually Nier's just going to be the adult Kingdom Hearts, not that adults can't enjoy Kingdom Hearts. I love Kingdom Hearts, but the adult Kingdom Hearts, I am all the way fucking in for that. Hell yes.
I don't know if I'm prepared for that world.
What if Yoko Taro's Final Fantasy game is actually just like Nier cross Final Fantasy, and it shatters the barrier? It's like Kingdom Hearts, but it's Nier and Final Fantasy.
And then it starts crossing over into Kingdom Hearts, and it's like
it might actually be a good game then.
Boom. I'm trying to think of what would be a good series to cross with Final Fantasy to make an adult Kingdom Hearts.
Okay, hear me out. Disney just bought Formula One.
Formula One cross Final Fantasy?
Lewis Hamilton, the newest hero.
That's not where I thought this was going to go.
The Expendables cross Final Fantasy.
I bet Max Verstappen would wield a gunblade.
Fast and the Furious cross Final Fantasy.
Hell yeah. It's all about family. All the way down. All right.
Marvel Comics. There you go.
Working with Disney again. I don't think it's going to happen. All right. Moving on. Next story. IGN announces Summer of Gaming event in June. Yeah. Following up on the cancellation of E3, IGN has decided to take up the slack, the pieces, and is going to host an event with a bunch of developers calling in, seemingly doing like remote interviews and demos, hands-on demos of games coming out. The developers involved include 2K, Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco, Amazon, Google Stadia, Twitter, Devolver Digital, THQ Nordic,
Twitter,
and more. Twitter. I did
the ultimate game.
I missed that when I read over originally. I don't know.
The most divisive game in history, twitter.com.
That's what that's called, their collaborators. So Twitter, they might be like streaming over Twitter or something.
Yeah, like Periscope or whatever. But
yeah.
I think we're going to see more events than just this one, because there's been a lot of conferences that are moving to purely digital.
Yes.
And they've been pretty successful so far. So I
bet we see Microsoft and Sony do their own like reveal events, but then also like do interviews with IGN and stuff, because they'll reach an even bigger audience and things like that.
Which platform has it been Steam, where they've been like, here's some unreleased games that you can play for like demo form for a little while?
Yeah, that's been Steam. They've done that twice now on with Game Awards, and then was it
what was the
DICE or
I don't know if it was DICE, but there's something recent that they did that for as well.
GDC?
But I don't know. I can't remember, but
yeah,
like I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that kind of stuff, especially with Sony. I imagine they can be like, oh, let's just open up like PlayStation Now for everybody, and here's some demos for shit that isn't out yet.
Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know if they'd necessarily have to do PlayStation Now for that. I think if they just did like, here are some demos, but limited time or whatever, who knows if their store can handle that.
Yeah, no idea.
And maybe, I don't know if console demos are more difficult to do. I don't know either. All right.
But either way, probably end up watching it. IGN is fine.
On that E3 note, the ESA has set dates for E3 2021.
Okay.
A reimagined showcase will take place June 15th to 17th, 2021.
That is not going to be a press event anymore. There's almost no way.
Probably not at all. But who knows what that looks like right now. There's no news on if E3, the ESA is going to try and get something together for June. They haven't said anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't they delay 2020 and not cancel it?
No, well, they've announced they canceled.
Oh, they canceled? Okay, I thought it was just delayed.
I imagine that was a situation where they had their dates and there are no other like dates they could get in there. Even if things were to get better, it's probably like booked at the convention center.
Yeah, probably.
I imagine the LA Convention Center is a pretty busy place.
Yes. Well,
so yeah, no E3 this year. There's one scheduled for next year.
Sure.
Whatever that ends up being.
PAX 2.
Let's get your predictions in now.
It's not going
to be a press event. gaming@fix.space.
I don't think there's going to be a PAX. There are going to be PAXs for the rest of this year.
No, of course, I don't think so either. But I think E3 is just going to be the next PAX. And
I'm certainly not going to go to a PAX West if they have one here in August or September. Like, no way.
That'd be quite a move on their part.
Even if the curve is bent down to like just one or two cases again, there's still no way I would go to a convention.
Hey, that's how I was feeling about PAX East.
No, yes.
We're moving on in our news. Just a few more stories. One's real quick.
Then you can go to bed.
Square Enix pushed an update for Final Fantasy IX on PC that deleted the entire game.
Yeah.
There's not much to be said about this, but I did see a phenomenal tweet that I don't agree with, but still, that said, never before has a patch fixed an entire video game in one go.
Oh, no.
Which I think Final Fantasy IX is pretty okay. So, but
it's definitely on my list to play, but
it's pretty fun.
I thought it was a funny
That's
tweet.
A good burn.
The person then said
to play it on Steam.
The person then said, to be clear, I've never played a Final Fantasy game before, but
that's a good goof.
Yeah, it's just funny.
People were trying to play the game and it just wouldn't launch, and lo and behold, the entire game was removed from their computer with that patch.
Yeah, like if you look at basically the Git log, I don't know if y'all know how Git works, but you can just see all the files and it's like, yeah, just everything is just fucking deleted.
It's an empty folder.
It's funny. So yeah,
that's real great. Last time I played it, I stopped playing because I couldn't mod my save because I was like, I don't want to like go around and farm. Just give me all the ultimate weapons, and it wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
very rude.
It's good. It's a good JRPG.
I got most of the way through, and then it's like I don't want to deal with the grind. I got 75, 80, 90% of the way there.
Final Fantasy, I don't want to deal with the grind. That's like,
yep. That's why you play Final Fantasy VIII. Game is perfectly balanced because the enemies scale to you. Uh-huh. You don't have to grind at all. You can turn off all the encounters in that game. Never have to do any random encounters. Perfect game. And our last news story of the week. It's going to make one Allison very happy. details have emerged about Nintendo's plans for Mario's 35th anniversary, which include remasters of most of Super Mario's 35-year back catalog for the Nintendo Switch. Games like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, all coming to the Switch in some like deluxe anniversary collection.
I hope it's a collection, because I was talking to my sibling about this and they were saying that they could see them releasing each of those games for full price, which would be
totally
an extremely Nintendo thing to do.
Yeah,
like
100%.
I don't doubt that. But at the same time, if they put out 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy in a 3-pack, that would be, I think, a good value proposition, and I would immediately buy it.
I hope Galaxy 2 would be a part of it.
Yeah, Galaxy 2 is good.
I feel like given I understand that it is not, you can't just like put the games out anywhere. So I do understand there's always work involved in porting them.
Well, especially with like an N64 game.
100%. Yes. So this is not meant as a like ignorant, like just do this. But Nintendo is like, they have, I guess, aside from maybe like Valve, they have a better set of resources than maybe any other company on the planet.
Yeah,
and it seems like every Nintendo system within a few years, you should just be able to play all the Mario on it, you know? Like,
no, I totally agree. And they have a back catalog of games that largely stands up to time. Like
exactly.
another of my playing weird nonsense yesterday, I was playing Yoshi's Island, and it's like, that's a good game. And like having the NES and SNES games on there for the online is really nice. But at the same time, like the fact there's definitely work to port games, but at the same time, people will buy old Nintendo games. I would.
I don't even. I'm not a huge Mario fan. I like 64 a lot. But I honestly haven't played Galaxy, so I will definitely play those whatever form, because I know they're very good. But I would buy, you could charge me like $100 for an app on my Switch where I tap it and then it's like, what Mario do you want to play? And it's just a list of all the Marios.
That's like the dream.
It seems like that should just exist to me. I don't know. Like
dream.
Well,
yeah.
Call it Super Mario All-Stars and have it be a thing that just is always having games added to it over time, you know?
I would pay like any subscription for that. I am not good at money when it comes to Nintendo though, so
yeah. I hope it happens. That would be cool.
Further dipping into the budget gamer's wallet, we've got also news that there will be a new installment in the Paper Mario series.
Yep.
As first reported by VentureBeat, the new game is understood to return to the series' RPG roots with a game closer to its N64 and GameCube installments, following criticism of its 3DS and Wii U entries.
Good. That's good news.
Do I get my hopes too high up?
I would be careful about that.
Want to, but as you
Mario
on the podcast know, any
2,000-year-old door.
God, as you on the podcast know, but listeners might not. Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door is my favorite game of all time.
Yep.
Or
because
the 1,000-Year Door, not the
worthy.
and, but yeah, I love that game so much.
What a fake gamer girl, doesn't even know the name of her favorite food.
Well, there you go. But like Mario RPGs are like they're one of my favorite things out there. So if it was a return to form, I would be great. I'd be so happy. That said, I played a little bit of Sticker Star and put it down, and I don't have a lot of hopes. So
after hearing people talk about those games, it seems like going back to what worked on the GameCube, N64, that seems like the only way forward.
Yeah, and I'm one
Nintendo is going to do what Nintendo does and not make any sense with their decision.
I'm one of the defenders of Super Paper Mario, the game for Wii. It's really different, but I think that it has the same kind of writing and charm of the first two. Just the RPG elements aren't really there, but people love the original and Thousand Year Door. So if they did a return to form, and honestly, as somebody that plays a lot of Nintendo games, I feel like largely their first party titles lately have been really quite good. There's not a lot of first party titles and I'm like, wow, that was not great. So I'm just hopeful that they're like, okay, we want to make a game that people actually like, but also you could bring the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube vert game to Switch too, and I would buy it for whatever money. So
yeah, that'd be cool. I feel like for me, they have not made, with the exception of maybe Breath of the Wild, they have not made an entry in any of their main series that I like as much as those games on N64 and GameCube. Like, I think Animal Crossing New Horizons is cool. I still like the GameCube, the original one, better. Fire Emblem, my problems with it aside, I still like the older Fire Emblems more. I don't like Mario Odyssey as much as Mario 64. So like for me, it's kind of like not really the opposite, because I don't think they've made any bad games recently. But I wonder how much they could return to those classics, like the style of those games.
I mean, from what I understand, like I never played Color Splash, but I remember when it came out, people were like, "Oh, is this going to be a return to form?" And I think that was part of what they were intending, and that certainly did not, from what I understand, did not happen. But I never bought it.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here. I have hesitations with their mobile output, which are considered first-party games in a lot of
fair.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, those
so
are
if
not
they
good.
Follow some of that trajectory, there hasn't been a good one yet, in my opinion. And also, like, everything I've heard about Mario Party on Switch has been pretty bad. Like how it has 4
I thought it
boards.
was good.
But like
I've heard
think
that
it's kind of
bad.
like
I
how
think
it,
it's
Mario
kind of
Party.
the platonic ideal of Mario Party.
Yeah, I think it's
Like,
if you like Mario Party or not.
If
I
you
don't-
don't like Mario Party, then you won't like it.
but it only
it's
has like 4 boards.
Yeah, but the like
I can get down with some Mario Party. Mario Party was Super Mario Party.
What
is awful.
Oh yeah.
Everything about it is the worst iteration of Mario Party to ever come out.
I find that
Games are bad,
almost.
the
I find
board
that
is
literally
bad.
impossible to believe. Did you
I'm
play the
so
one on Wii U?
confused by that statement.
I did not play the
Okay,
one on Wii U.
we
I
don't
did
have
not
time to
play
get
one
into
since
all
the
that.
GameCube.
That is
We'll need to
bizarre.
clearly do a Mario Party cast, because Mario Party on
played
Wii
one
U
since the GameCube,
doesn't
but-
have boards.
And it has the whole like,
That
oh,
sounds
you're
like
in
an
the same
improvement.
car together. Like, what is
Oh,
that?
that
It's
one, yeah.
terrible. It's awful.
Anyways, sorry for bringing that one up, but I don't think Nintendo's record is sterling. Like even if you look back one generation, and you look at Happy Home Designer and all that shit. Like,
oh, for sure. And I think,
what was the stupid Animal Crossing party board game where there was no mini games and it was literally just going around the board and that's it.
And you had to use your amiibo every time that you played. Yeah, no. I mean, especially getting to the Wii U games. The record is certainly not flawless, but I think that a lot of their games for Switch, especially like their first party titles, personally, I think they are kind of a return to form. Like in terms of, I really loved Odyssey. I really loved Breath of the Wild. I just think that there's a lot of really great games that are generally really well liked. So I want to be hopeful, but at the same time, I'm like, I love Paper Mario so much that I'm like, I don't know.
If it's got people who worked on stuff like Odyssey working on this Paper Mario game, it'll at least be good. Yeah. Whether it's actually the thing, it'll at least be good. Because I mean, that team is extremely talented, and Odyssey's a great game.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it needs.
You take the Odyssey team and put them on Paper Mario, though.
No, I don't know if you do either, but I mean,
that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could do something different and still have it be good. Like, I like I said, Super Paper Mario is really, really different, but I still think it's quite a good game. So I don't know. I think that you can have that. I think that the biggest thing that you need really in a Paper Mario is the characters and storytelling and the humor being there. And yeah, I don't know. So I want it to be really good. It's good. Paper Mario is the number one thing I want, but you know.
What if it's Paper Mario, but the combat is like ARMS?
Okay. I have arms, but you know.
Yes, you do. I can see them.
Arms.
I can relate, Allison, because I just want the next Elder Scrolls game to be good, and I have very little faith in Bethesda's ability to deliver that.
Yeah, so. it's the feeling of like I would like to have high hopes.
Yeah,
but I don't.
Would you like to have high hopes for a minute?
What?
Never mind.
I got you.
It's clear how far past we've moved in the political discourse.
Remember Pete Buttigieg? That was 37 years ago.
Yes.
Oh my God. March was the longest month of all time.
Oh, we're not even in March anymore.
I know, but it still felt like
it
felt like an eternity.
Well,
April already feels like it's been 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Before this podcast becomes the longest podcast of all time.
Just leave our mics open.
We're pretty much already there.
We are going to wrap up this episode of Gaming Fix 115. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Yeah.
115 on April 4th, 2020. Oh yeah, nice.
4/4/2020.
We planned this years in advance to make sure we got an episode on 420. We're not 420.
Just wait for the June 9th episode.
Nice.
Yeah. There's no podcast on.
We're
June
gonna do a
9th
special Tuesday episode.
Okay.
Okay.
If we're all still working from home, we could make it happen.
Exactly. It's going to be all about the next generation of Xbox consoles.
Yep.
And that's it.
Okay. You can find some reviews on our website, fix.space. You can find my playthrough of Resident Evil 3 on our YouTube channel, Gaming Fix, right? Fix Podcasts. What is our YouTube channel? Fix Podcast on YouTube. That's what we've got. Like isn't our Twitch different? Our Facebook is different from our stuff. I always forget which one's which. SEO baby. You can find me, Andre, on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Allison, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Alex?
Probably not playing Super Mario Odyssey. It's okay. It's an alright game.
And Pat?
Probably not really playing anything on my Switch for a while, but also at PJC Plays on Twitter. I'll check into Animal Crossing.
Alex, if you had one of the hat ship, what would your hat look like? Would it just be a beanie?
I don't know what that means. Hat ship?
In Odyssey, he's got the ship and it's a top hat.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, it'd be a beanie.
Okay.
I thought you said
Mine
chip.
would be
I was like, what? Chip.
Chip.
Mine would be a cowboy hat. A nice 10-gallon.
Does that hat take 10 gallons? Yuck.
Bye, everyone.
SpongeBob movies are real good. Thanks for joining us. Review us on your podcast platform of choice. So long, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.